It's 8:30. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a very full day, hopefully a very productive day. This is the special committee that was created to facilitate the selection of a new permanent town manager. This is our first meeting. We did send out the town sent out RFPs to a number of firms to respond. We received 7 proposals. Our goal for today is to give each of the respondents an opportunity to present their proposal, discuss it, answer any questions, and then position ourselves ideally to discuss who we like and who we might recommend going forward from here. So given the really, really tight schedule, we're actually supposed to get the first firm on the phone right now.
And then when they have a time constraint.
And they've got a time constraint. We're going to push the comments to right before we recess. We're going to reset. One of the firms is not available till 3 o'clock this afternoon. So we're going to recess after the 10:30 firm makes their presentation and then resume the meeting for the 3 o'clock. So we'll do comments after the at 11 o'clock when we finish this first batch. But we're just afraid that we're going to throw the schedule off. They're all queued up one after the other. And we want to be respectful of their time and make sure they've got an opportunity to present. So the public comments are being moved to 11 o'clock or after the Colin Basinger Associates presentation. So we're ready to go with the first one. Okay.
I'll call him if you guys want to
Yes,
do the
please.
talking.
Yep.
It'll be over that speaker and she should be able to hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Catherine Tuck Parrish from Noctellus.
Hi, Catherine. This is Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the town of Holden Beach. I'm here with Tracy Thomas, who is another town commissioner. The two of us were appointed to a special committee to facilitate this process of selecting the new permanent town manager. So this is our first meeting. You are being broadcast. We've got about half a dozen, maybe a little bit more people in the audience. And we're here. Our town clerk is here to take minutes. So we really appreciate your time. We appreciate your accommodating us with our schedule. We'd very much like to hear about your proposal. If you could describe your approach, your relevant experience, any key points that you think are differentiators, reasons we should pick your firm, and whatever you can. And then we'll have questions if time allows. You've got roughly 20 minutes with time for questions. So if you need more time, we can maybe bump it up a little bit, but we want to be respectful of your time today. So unless you have any questions for us on procedures, you now have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate having a chance to talk with you all. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our firm and a little bit about our approach, and I'll try to walk through our process a little bit and try to anticipate some of your questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you need to interrupt me to ask something right away, that is fine too. Noctellus is a full-service consulting firm located in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we do everything from utility, rate studies, management consulting, staffing studies, executive recruitment, coaching, and a number of other services that we provide to local governments and public utilities. I lead our executive services practice, which includes executive recruitment, facilitated evaluations for board-appointed positions, such as the town manager, and also executive coaching. Our approach has 3 main kind of sections to it. The first part is really understanding what your needs are and developing the recruitment materials. If we were to work with you, the first thing we would do would be to talk with each member of the Board of Commissioners individually. Generally, we do that over the phone or via Teams, and have individual conversations with you. And then we generally have one meeting, again, virtually with the full Board of Commissioners. We also would want to seek some feedback from the staff. So the direct reports, department heads, if there's kind of a naturally occurring leadership team, that's the group that we want to talk to as a group to kind of hear their perspectives. And that information helps us understand sort of what's going well with the town, what needs some improvement that might be on the plate for the next town manager. It also helps us develop 3 main recruitment documents. The first, of course, is a recruitment brochure. So that's going to outline what's important to the town, what the minimum and preferred qualifications are, and also really highlight why it's a good place to live and work, to attract folks to come to and to consider the town. The second document is a recruitment plan. This is kind of a guiding key milestone and date document that clarifies when things will happen, when it outlines kind of the expected interview process, and it's kind of one place where you can go to see sort of what's next, what are the next steps. The third document is a list of first-year goals. That's something that we always like to provide. Helps to do this up front so that we know that the commissioners have, kind of agreed what the most important priorities are for the next town manager the first year. It helps us when we're talking with prospective candidates, and it also helps the candidate, whoever is successful, to start with kind of their marching orders, understanding that there are weather events and legislative events and other events that could impact what those first year priorities are, but it's a starting place. So those are kind of the 3 main deliverables from the first activity. The second activity is where you might not see us, but where we're probably doing most of our work. And that is reaching out to, well, of course, we'll place the ads, we'll place a number of job ads, but we will also do a lot of targeted outreach to folks in North Carolina towns, cities, folks that have led coastal communities or other similar kinds of organizations. So we're doing direct outreach. We have a list, of course, a database of thousands of people in our database that have asked to get information about our positions, and so we will, of course, send to them. But we also do customized outreach for each position, and so we'll be doing unique outreach just for the town and letting them know about it. This is very important in today's market to reach out to folks that are not necessarily looking, but once they hear about your community, hopefully will consider and we'll have conversations with them. This is also a great way. We get a lot of referrals from this, and so we encourage folks, even if they're not interested, to pass it along or to give us information so we can pass it along to others. So we will do that targeted outreach. Before we end that activity, we will have accepted all the applications, done pre-screening interviews on a group of top applicants, and then at the end of that activity, we'll have a candidate review meeting with you. That meeting is where you will see a list of everyone who has applied and information on the top candidates, additional information from our screening interviews that we will share with you before you have to narrow the pool down further. Then in the third activity is really the interview process. We recommend that you have kind of a 2-step process. The first being virtual interviews. That is something that we host for you. So we'll set it all up and host that for you. It allows candidates to not have to travel. So it saves you money and it saves them taking travel time off of work. And it allows you to consider a larger number of candidates before you invite a group to come in person for interviews, which is the second step. In that second phase where you have finalists come in person, when we have those initial conversations, we will develop sort of what that interview process will be, and that can have a number of components to that. What you wanted to do is to mirror and reflect as much as possible what the job will be so that you can evaluate candidates in a variety of settings, and they have an opportunity to also evaluate the town in a number of ways. They would want to meet, for example, the staff that they might be working with, and we would want to have hopefully both small group interactions with the Board of Commissioners as well as a full board. So we would also do reference and background checks. Some communities want to do their own background checks. We obviously will do that for you. It's a best practice. You need to do that. And so we offer that as well. And that's just a very rough outline of our process. When we are talking with each of you all at the beginning, and when we're talking with staff, we're asking some of the same questions, and it really helps us understand kind of what your needs are, but from a variety of perspectives. And also, it allows us to understand kind of what's on the horizon for the town and what you might need. Instead of it's important to understand what has happened and understand kind of the past, but we will also want to be focused on the future. I think what makes our firm unique is that we are a national firm. We're able to provide potential candidates that might come from all over the country. On the other hand, we're very North Carolina focused, and that's the headquarters for our firm, and we have strong connections and outreach in the community. Many of our staff are located in North Carolina and have deep roots there and can help connect us. We do have a track record of encouraging and finding good candidates that may be not as traditional, maybe women or people of color, people who came from different backgrounds, veterans and other underrepresented groups. You all will make the selection. We just want you to have some options. And so we, in this environment, you have to work hard to find candidates that meet your qualifications and also are interested in the move. And so we will have had conversations with them about what that might take and understand sort of what their needs are, as well as what the town is able to provide in order to find a match. You will make all the decisions. It's your process. We recommend good practices for you and make sure that you have the best options possible. We make sure that it's a fair and even-handed process for every candidate involved. And we also make sure you have a process that helps you see candidates in a variety of settings so that you can make some choices at the end of the process and feel like you have enough information. So I'm going to stop talking since I can't tell if you have questions. I want to make sure that there's time for you.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, I do have a couple questions. First of all, you quoted a $35,900 fixed fee, but there's also additional costs that are going to be involved for advertising, pass-through expenses, potentially travel, things like that. It would help our finance department if you could give us a ballpark total, kind of all in, because when we go down this path, we need to encumber sufficient dollars to cover everything. So we're not going to hold you to it, but for just budgeting purposes, if you can give us kind of a ballpark or a number we should set aside, encumber to cover everything, not just your fixed fee.
Sure. So the advertising is anywhere, I would say 2,000 to 2,500. And then the background checks is a variable cost. Generally, you're doing that only on one or two candidates. And then depending on where the finalists, our travel is included in our cost. So this is just candidates that might be traveling, and they might just be driving, or they might be flying, and then lodging. So 10,000, an additional 10,000 is generous. It's probably more than you would spend, but that's what I would say with all of that. I mean, that would assume you might have 3 candidates that are traveling from not within driving distance, that you'd be doing multiple background checks, and also that you would have the high end of the advertising. You see what that advertising cost is, so you actually have a chance to lower that if you want. So we always let you see what that cost is before we place them. But I'm giving you a high end so you understand what kind of the top would be.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we need, is to make sure we've covered from an accounting, enough to not have to go back to the bank or run into problems. Could you talk a little bit about how we would interact going forward, who all we would be talking to on your end, how much is virtual, how much is in person, just kind of the how you see it going forward in terms of interactions with us?
Absolutely. So we would ask you for kind of a point of contact, and sometimes that's 2 people, sometimes it's the mayor, and also the city clerk or an administrative, someone else in the organization who can help us get information and set up meetings and things like that. And that can be a variety of different people in any town or city that might do that. You would have one main point of contact, the lead recruiter, and that is the person that you would be talking with, that everyone at the town would be interacting with, and that the candidates would be interacting with. We have a support team behind us that's very strong, so it's not just one person working on it, but you have one consistent person throughout the process. Our work is virtual until the final interviews, although we're obviously able to come in person more often if that is desired. That's just not in we give kind of a flat fee because we know local governments need to know kind of what the total cost is and not have a bunch of variables. So we go ahead and include that in our price. The first activities, sometimes there is a desire for us to come and do that in person. We certainly can do that. But we also find many elected officials are very busy, and they like to be able, when we come in person, we need to do it efficiently, sort of all at once on one day. That's not always convenient for the elected officials. And so that's why we have pivoted to phone conversations and or Teams or Zoom meetings, so that it can be at the schedule that works for each elected official and the town staff. The candidate review meeting is another time when we are doing it virtually, but we have been asked to come in person. I mean, pre-COVID, we did it all in person, but so many folks are used to working remotely that they prefer this process, and so that's what we do. We do think the final interviews, it's essential that those are all in person. We're there the whole time to facilitate that. So you would have one lead recruiter at this point. I think in our proposal, we suggested Pamela Weidman, who's located in North Carolina. So that's who we have proposed. The timing of that can determine if that would be her or whether that would be me. So.
And where are you based?
I'm outside of Washington, D.C. Rockville, Maryland is where I live.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You talked about pre-screening interviews. Do you narrow down the candidate pool before you bring it to the Board of Commissioners? And if so, approximately how many?
Yes, ma'am. Typically 8 to 10 or so. There is frequently a natural break, and we, try to provide you somewhere between. I think occasionally we'll provide 12, but 10 is kind of a good number. We want you to be able to narrow that pool down, and how we're doing that is we're using the minimum qualifications, of course, but also the preferred qualifications and those screening interviews help us to narrow down. We are not talking to every single person that applies, just to be clear. We are using that evaluation criteria to narrow the pool for us, and then after the screening interviews, providing you all with folks that we think are worthy of your consideration, and then you all are narrowing down from that point. And of course, if there's anyone in the pool that you are interested in, you're going to see everyone who applied. So if there's someone else that you would like more information on, it absolutely will provide that for you.
Thank you.
So for the virtual meetings, are they a Zoom or Teams or something, so we see people versus talk on the phone, or what's your standard approach?
I'm sorry, could you say the last part of that? I heard you say, are they Zoom or Teams?
Well, just whether we'll be looking
part.
at people or just hearing them over the phone. How do you intend to do the virtual aspects of the project?
Oh, okay. So we usually, the initial meetings with Mayor and Board of Commissioners, we offer either one. People have preferences. Some people like to meet some people prefer the phone, and some people prefer, a Teams or a Zoom. And so we give you all that choice, how you'd like to do it. We are meeting with the staff via Zoom or Teams, and the virtual interviews themselves are via Zoom. That's an easier format for most people to use, and we have a lot more control over who comes in and out on those, so we use Zoom for that. So that's the way we do it, and we would host all of those for you.
Okay, I believe you quoted a 4-month timeline, so basically if we were to start in, I don't know, March, April, are you comfortable with that, or is it prone to go one way or another?
What that, just to clarify, so that's like, we have a contract, and from the first conversations that we're having until when you have interviews. So just to clarify that, after you make a decision, there's a timeline that you have to approve an employment agreement, and the person has to give notice, and then they have to potentially relocate, and that takes some time too. So, but in terms of the process from when we start to when you have those final interviews and make a decision is typically about 16 weeks.
Okay.
That can be impacted by vacations and things like that on the elected body. What we try to do at the very beginning is set all those dates so everyone knows and can plan around them, because we know how busy you are.
Okay.
Do you help with contract negotiations and developing, what would be the appropriate pay scale and things like that for a town like us?
Yes, we don't do a salary survey, but we will kind of look at kind of market pay for the kinds of candidates that you're interested in. And so we will establish an expected salary range in the recruitment brochure. And then at the end, when you all have consensus on a candidate, we will work with you to develop deal points, and those deal points we will do the negotiation for you with the candidate, and then once there's agreement on the deal points, turn that over to the town attorney or whoever's drafting your employment agreement, and make sure they have that information. We're not attorneys, but we do think it's important that you get agreement on deal points before you involve an attorney so that their time can be used productively.
And I think one final question. Have you or your firm done any work for the town of Holden Beach in the past?
We have not done any recruitments for you.
Okay.
I know we have proposed on rate.
Salary study?
I need to go back because we joined Raftellus in 2000, and Raftel's been around a long time. So I need to go back and see if there has ever been any work with Raftelis before I
It's
tell you
okay.
something.
It just, your name rang a bell, so I thought that I'd check and see if there was something there. But, no, it's okay. We just were curious. I was just curious. I think we're good on our end. Do you have questions for us?
I would definitely have a whole bunch of questions for you about kind of how you got here and, you know, what's important to you and what you've learned from what's happened in the past and things like that. I don't think that's really, this is not really the time for that. I am interested in understanding your timeline for, I know you've appointed an acting town manager. So sometimes that means the community is like, hey, we got to get this started tomorrow. And sometimes there is not, there's a desire to make sure you take your time in the process. And so I'm interested in sort of your sense of urgency on this.
I would, yeah, so I would say that we would like to do it as quickly as possible, but we also want to make sure we do it properly.
Great. And the other question I guess I have is, do you have, has the group discussed anything about what is important to them in the next town manager at all, or is that something you have not discussed? And it's fine either way, just kind of understanding
We
where you
have
are
not
in the
yet
process.
discussed it. We need to, but we have not yet discussed it.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess the last question is sort of the timing of when you'll be making a decision.
Well, our next commissioners meeting is a week from today, so it's on the
Okay.
agenda. We'll see if we're ready to decide, and we need to do some more due diligence on our end, but it would be as soon as a week from today. And then our next meeting would be on March, third Tuesday of March.
Great. Anything else that I can answer that would help you in making your decision before, I know you have other things to do?
I think we're good. We thank you for your time. We appreciate it. You've been very helpful, very informative, and hope you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So we have 3 minutes, huh? I mean, I think it's going to be good to actually have the input later so that they'll have a basis of some of the conversations to talk about. So it may turn out good.
Comments you need?
Yeah. Public input. Next up is Sumter, and that's Sean Gillen and Warren Hutmacher.
Yeah, if you want, I'll call Sean first, and then if you want to tell him to just hold on a minute, and I'll add the other one.
Okay.
If you want to just go ahead and try, it's
Yeah,
only
let's,
2
because we
minutes.
got 2 minutes. It might take 2 minutes to get it all
Okay.
set up.
Hello?
Hello, this is Tom Myers with the Town of Holden Beach. We're trying to set up, I don't know if we were going to conference call in both your parties or just one of you.
I can if they're
Yeah,
wanting.
who is this we're speaking with?
This is
This
Sean.
is Sean Gillen. How
Hi,
are you?
Sean. Warren was on our list too. Was Warren going to be participating or is it just you?
Yes, he's expecting the call in, yes.
Okay,
I'll call him now.
so we'll connect him up and then hopefully be ready to start.
Okay, great. Good morning, this is Warren Hutmacher.
Hi, Warren. This is Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the Town of Holden Beach. I'm here with Tracy Thomas, another commissioner, Heather Finold, our town clerk, and we've got about half a dozen of the public in attendance. We're If you're ready to start, we'd like to have an opportunity to hear from you with regards to your proposal. Tracy and I have been tasked with facilitating the process. We're a special subcommittee of the board, and we're very interested in hearing your proposal, your approach, any factors you think differentiate you, reasons you should be selected, and any other issues that you think would be important for us to consider as we make our selection and move forward. So unless you have questions for us, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and add Sean Gillen to the call. I'm here, Warren. Oh, you're here. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. All right, well, Sean, wanted to, well, first off, on behalf of the company, want to thank y'all for the opportunity to be able to present that. We're excited about this opportunity, and I'll let Sean go ahead and get started as he's the author of the proposal.
All right, thank you all very much. I'm Sean Gillen. I'm with Sumter Local Government Consulting. We have what we think is a very unique approach to the city manager search process, where we really get involved with the process itself in seeking out candidates for these positions. And we have built up a very large database of city managers throughout the country, especially in the southeast region down here. And we utilize that as a key tool to leverage the attraction of candidates to each position that we work with. One of the key things that I like about our approach is the way we handle the fee. So our structure is we don't get paid until we perform, and it's built out in 3 phases. Phase 1 being when we create the brochure, we send out the first invoice, and then when you approve the semi-finalist candidates, that's when the second one goes out. So we actually find the candidates first, and then we bring them to you for approval, and then the second invoice is sent out. And then the third one is when the process is complete, when the person starts. So their start date is when that third invoice gets sent out. So we approach this as we're a partner with the community trying to find the right person for the job, and we don't get paid until that gets accomplished. Our process begins with a kickoff meeting with the key staff and with the search committee that you have put in place. And the biggest takeaway from that meeting is the ideal candidate profile. So we really want to find out what it is about Holden Beach and what they're looking for in a city manager. And as we start screening candidates, that is the key tool we use to identify the people that would be the right fit. So that's a very important step in the process. And then from that, we build the brochure, and we build it around the town, its unique challenges and opportunities, and what the ideal candidate would look like. And then when it goes to advertising, we seek out we don't just place ads and let it sit. We're actually on the phone contacting our contacts across the region and the nation. And also, we look at all the different league associations, the City County Manager Association in North Carolina and the surrounding states, and ICMA and things like that. But we also can cater that to the specific needs of the community. If there are subsets of city manager associations around the country that you really want us to target, we can do that as well. If you look at the proposal, you'll see a couple of different. You'll see the brochure sample that we gave, plus the candidate. The semifinalist report, a sample of a semifinalist report, to where we send we set up meetings with the semifinalist candidates, and we conduct Zoom interviews with them, and we record those interviews for the search committee. Those videos are then sent to the search committee, and then along with a report on what our thoughts on each candidate is. So we give a sample of that in the proposal, and you see we have rankings. We create a ranking system based on that ideal candidate profile and what the community is looking for, and in an ideal candidate. Then the typical timeline is about a 70-day process from start to finish. So once we have that kickoff meeting, we have a series of goals set for the first 2 weeks to get the brochure out, and then there's a period where the advertising is up, and then we're out actively seeking out candidates for the position, and then the semifinalist interviews, and once the semifinalists are approved and the search committee has a chance to view those screening interviews, the search committee will select who they would like to come in for a finalist interview on site in Holden Beach. So it's a very involved process, and that kickoff meeting is very important, where we meet with key staff and we meet with the search committee, identifying what it is that you want. So we've done searches where communities want to get the residents involved in identifying the ideal candidate as well, and that's something we accommodate in our process as well. So, Warren, is there anything else that I should be hitting on in that process without just reading through the proposal itself?
Yeah, no, I think you covered the process, and I think the other important factor is that the firm is made up of all former city managers that are handling these type of issues. We do have a consultant on the grounds in Myrtle Beach area that will be a little closer to you for any day-to-day issues, or if we need to run to a meeting. And the other factor I would make sure we kind of mention is we do have experience with coastal towns, tourist towns. So Sean is the former city manager in Tybee Island, and so he's got a lot of experience of understanding when you've got a small overnight population, but you blow up when folks come to the beach and to the ocean and to the amenities around there, and what kind of issues those cause, and what kind of city manager would be most appropriate in those circumstances, because I think it's a really unique position when you're working in a coastal community between the environmental issues, the public safety issues, the quality of life issues that go to that. And I think Sean can bring a really in-touch perspective with that as he works with you to try to identify candidates that would be best in that kind of community. And so we really focus a lot on not on trying to find you the best town manager, but finding the best fit for Holden Beach. And so that takes work to be able to really understand what your priorities are, what kind of personality you're looking for. And so we focus a lot on those soft skills to make sure that we got a fit for the community, and not somebody that's just happens to be very good at local government, but it would not necessarily be a good fit for you.
Right, and I'll follow up on that, Warren, is that, Tybee Island is not completely unlike Holden Beach, where we have a population of about 3,100 people, and any given Saturday in June and July, you're going to have 30 to 40,000 people on the island, and then you'll have 10 to 15,000 every day in March and April, and then in the book, what we call the bookend months, right before winter and then right after winter, where people are coming in just to get warm from the north, and it creates a unique set of skills that a city manager has to have. And one of those, excuse me, one of those skills that a city manager has to have is the ability to identify candidates that understanding coastal resiliency, the idea of beach erosion, and all the factors that play into that. One of the biggest issues on Tybee Island is the short-term rental issue, and that's an ongoing issue. That is something that the city is struggling with, trying to trying to deal with what their main industry is, which is tourism, but also how to deal with the quality of life issues with the residents, and then how to maintain that residential feel. Tybee's still a classic beach town. We don't have high rises, and they put in specific ordinances to try and deal with the pressure to go vertical and development, and to cater to the tourist industry, but also how do we get the amenities for the local residents who actually live here. So that's a struggle that goes on all the time, and it takes a special kind of person to be dealing with those issues, because you've got to understand what it means to respond to a hurricane, and you've got to be able to make sure the streets are paved. So it's everything that the city manager has, but you also have all these other factors that you got to deal with. So it is a unique type of position.
Thank you. One question, you quoted an $18,000 fixed fee. In order to move forward, we've got to appropriate or set aside the total money so that we can pay for everything that's involved. We know there's some pass-through expenses, maybe travel expenses, advertising, things like that. Can you give us kind of a ballpark all-in number so we can, appropriate the right amount in our budget and make sure we can cover everything that's involved? We're not going to hold you to it. We just need to know.
Go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, so I can handle that one. So there's a couple of the buckets for this type of process. So the $18,000 is the flat fee for labor. We think about $1,000 for advertising will be sufficient, and probably about $2,000 in travel expenses for the consultants for this. And that's somewhat depending on how we approach things with virtual meetings and cost cutting. And so that would be a sort of the high number on the travel expense. And then you've got some money that you need to budget for candidates for them to come visit on the final round if they're not local to the area. And so typically what a community would do in that case to make sure that you've got sort of a two-way fit is let the candidates come in for 2 days, 1 day, to be able to visit, look around, talk with people, and get a full exposure to Holden Beach. And typically we recommend that you allow them to bring their partner spouses with them so that you've got them capable of making their best decisions. So that's usually another $2,000. So I think in total, you're looking at, with our bid, about $23,000 would probably be the all-in cost for the community. With again, some of that would be just passed through to the candidates for reimbursement for travel. And those would be the three buckets that we look at.
Okay. And do you have any of your travel built into you said it's just labor right now for the $18,000, is that correct?
No.
Okay. And do you anticipate traveling here face-to-face, or how much is, maybe you can just kind of talk through how you see us interacting going forward.
Yeah, so our preference is, we think things usually go best when we're in person. However, we also want to be sensitive to costs for the community. And so in some places, we will come in, on a regular basis to, do the kickoff meeting and to interview all the key stakeholders and elected officials. So that would be usually a 1 to 2 day visit at the beginning. And then once we've got the position advertised, the brochure is out there, we're recruiting candidates. We'll provide, as Sean noted before, initial candidate review. Typically that's done on a virtual meeting where you'll have the report, you can ask us any questions, and then you select from there the semifinalists that we're going to do the video recorded interviews for. but that could also be in person if y'all prefer for us to come in for that. And then the next stopover point is after we complete the video interviews, we would be sending you the links to all those videos with our candidate report on each candidate, their profile, and then that also could be an in-person visit where we basically help y'all cull it down from the list of semifinalists down to 3 to 5 folks to bring in to the community for their final interviews. And then the last trip would be for us to join in on the process where we sit through the interviews with y'all, help you sort of sort through the candidates and make decisions. And we also help with the logistics of moving the candidates around during the time that they're there. So those would be the potential visits. And again, our preference is to be there because I think it's more valuable. But to save costs, we've done for a number of clients, we'll do virtual meetings to save you all those travel costs. As I said before, we do have another consultant that's going to be working with us on this. It's in Myrtle Beach, so he's pretty close to be able to come by and represent us and work on this. So that would, he wouldn't need a hotel room or anything for that. So that would significantly lower the travel costs if that's something that y'all are concerned about.
And you are based in Georgia, the two of you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean is in Tybee Island and I'm in Alpharetta.
Okay. I got one more. Oh, go ahead. Tracy's got a question.
Can you talk a little bit about your strategy for building a diverse candidate pool and avoiding the good old boys club?
I'm sorry, I was having a little difficulty hearing you on that.
Can you
question.
talk
Would
a little
be able
bit
to repeat that,
about
please?
how you would build a diverse candidate pool to avoid the good old boy club?
Yes, and so one of our core beliefs is that the larger the candidate pool and the more work we do to recruit, and especially into diverse communities, provides a better set of choices for the community as we look at things. And so as an outsider, from the standpoint of we're not a North Carolina firm, we're not vested into the same old candidates that you see in North Carolina. So we've got a much more diverse following in our 15,000 emails. And our list, really creates a lot of buzz and interest in positions. And so, typically we'll see, for a position like this, 50, 60 candidates. We also do some advertising in the sub-communities within the city manager world. And there's a number of those from the National Forum for Black Public Administrators to, women in government at the ICMA level. And so we're familiar with a lot of those subsets to be able to recruit. A lot of those candidates have applied for jobs in communities that we've recruited for in the past, and we'd be able to reach out to them, if they're still in the job market, to take a look at this job as well.
Okay. Your proposal has a 8-week timeline. You've also kind of mentioned 70 days. Can you maybe break that down a little bit about, what all gets done in those 8 weeks and timing wise?
Sure. And so there's a lot that kind of goes into that process. And so there's some things that we have complete control over, and then there's some things that the town really has more control over the timing of. And so from the initial stage, we like to, as soon as we're given a notice to proceed and contract, we go ahead and get started immediately, and that starts with that kickoff meeting. We can usually do that within a week to be able to get started, and then within 2 weeks or probably 10 days, we'll have a draft brochure that we'll give to y'all that's in final form, but it needs to be approved by the town. And so once we've made whatever changes are necessary, that gets out there for recruiting. What we're finding is that you really just need about 3 weeks for the recruiting period. And it gets stale after that because people see these ads very quickly. The folks that are in the market will jump on them, and then the folks that we're recruiting that are probably the better candidates are the ones that are working somewhere else. We're able to reach within a pretty quick time frame to get them to apply. And so once we have that, we'll do our initial candidate report within 2 days of the first review of resumes, which again is about 3 weeks after we get the thing advertised. And then we'll turn that over to you. And so the periods of time where the calendar can stretch is really when we get the reports to the client. It just depends on how long it takes y'all to go through your deliberative process to, get us the feedback on, okay, we've got, 11 suggested semifinalists. We're good with 8 of them. Please go ahead and do your video interviews. We usually get those done within a week to 10 days, depending on the number of candidates that we need to schedule for those 1-hour video interviews. And then from there, we'll provide, again, it takes us about 2 days to provide the report with the links to the videos and the candidate profiles and what we liked and didn't like about the candidates from the interviews that we provided to you. And again, you've got a period there where that's given to the town, and it depends on how quickly y'all move through your deliberative process to get back to us and say, okay, we like 3 of these. Can we bring those in for finalists? We usually jump on that at that point, try to get that scheduled within a week and a half, depending on y'all's calendar and the candidate calendar, handle that process. And then typically what we've seen is that, the day of the interviews, the town usually can do an executive session and come to agreement on who they'd like to make an offer to. We spend about a week or so doing our backgrounds at that point. And then there's a few days for negotiating any agreements, and then bring that back to the town so that you all can take your action. So it's very reasonable on the 70 days, but it tends to stretch sometimes where, the town may just need to take more time to be able to consider our reports or be able to get you all on schedule to be able to meet. So hopefully that answers the question in probably more detail than you were looking for, but just wanted to explain sort of how our schedule works.
Okay, no, that's helpful. My takeaway is if we can get our act together, you can do it in 8 weeks. If we
Can I ask
can't,
a
we'll take longer.
follow-up
That's the, yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that about, you talked about possibly, I'm looking for some numbers, like how many would you present to us, and then how many would you recommend that you do the semifinalist interviews, and how many do you typically see that we would interview? You talked about that
Yeah.
a little bit, but I'm just wanted you to be more specific in the numbers.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would expect with a job like this, which is pretty exciting, that y'all would see probably 50 to 60 candidates that would come through on the initial recruitments. We typically will recommend to you about 10 to 12 on the semifinalists to do the video interviews, and those folks are, all extremely qualified and we think are good fits depending on the resume. But until you interview them, you really don't know. And so from there, we typically will recommend going from about 10 to 12 to 3 to 5 on the finals, and then bringing those 3 to 5 in for the interviews. And then, you might get down to 2 and you want to meet them again, or you might just be able to, usually someone just pops out during the interviews and it's like, that's our person. So those would be the numbers I would guess at this point. Obviously, don't know until we get there. We're also very flexible from the standpoint of we let the process dictate in some ways how many candidates there are going to be. So if you end up with, a couple more, 15 really good semifinalists, we have no limitations on the number that we'll interview. We'll interview 100 if you want us to. Because we want to get to the right candidate, so we don't nickel and dime on that with our costs. That's all on the flat fee, no matter how many y'all want to interview. But usually, we're seeing about 10.
Perfect.
Is the normal number we'll see in these kind of searches.
Perfect, thank you. Do you help us with contract development as far as providing salary and compensation guidance?
Sure, I heard you. You were asking if we help with sort of developing what the contract, what the salary should be. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yes, we do that. We do a market study within the area to be able to tell you sort of what the most recent salaries are and what your neighbors and folks that we think are in those competitive markets. So it may not be necessarily folks that are exactly like you, but it's folks that our candidates are going to be applying to us and to other people. So that's really the competitive marketplace. We'll provide you with a recommendation. We like to advertise with tight ranges because we think that's good and transparent, and it saves the trouble later of arguing over salary. If everybody knows kind of what y'all really expect to pay, everything goes smoother and faster on the back ends. And then we'll also, take a look at y'all's existing benefit package and what kind of contract items you've used previously, and then compare that against what the candidates are going to expect and make recommendations on any improvements that we see for that.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good on this end. Unless you have any additional questions for us, we'd like to thank you for your time. It's been very helpful. It's very informative. You've given us a lot to think about, and we appreciate that. So if you have any questions for us, please let us know. Otherwise, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for the time, and we're really excited about this project, and we hope we were able to work with you on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Your next guy's ready. He's trying to call in early, so it's
Let's go.
completely up to you guys.
Let's go.
He thought it was 9:15, so.
Oh, it was originally, I think, probably.
No, it was originally 9:30. I think
Okay.
he's got his, I went
Okay.
back to look.
So then what,
So it's Lane Bailey is who,
Okay.
MGT.
okay.
Hello?
Hello, is this Lane?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay, my name's Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the town of Holden Beach. I've got Tracy Thomas with me. She's another commissioner. She's the, she and I make up a special selection committee that's been tasked to help facilitate this process of finding a new permanent town manager. We also have our town clerk here taking minutes, and we've got about a half a dozen members of the public in the audience. So we really appreciate your time. We appreciate your availability, meeting our schedule. What we'd like to do, we've received your proposal. We'd like for you to present it, discuss it, highlight anything you think is very important for us to focus on, any differentiators that you feel make your firm the best firm to pick. And then from there, address your questions you might have for us and questions we might also have for you. So you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Wanted to highlight a couple of things, what I think makes our firm unique. One is that we only hire local government professionals. All the recruiters have worked in local government, so we understand local government. I myself am a retired city manager. I worked 32 years in North Carolina. Except for a couple years as a budget analyst, my entire career was either a city or county manager of the state. I had the honor of serving as president of the North Carolina City County Managers Association, and I was vice president of ICMA, so we have a lot of contact. My colleague Rick Jennings is also a retired city manager. We have an extensive social media network where we reach local government professionals. And we have recruiters all across the country, so when we're talking about jobs like Holden Beach, we will be sharing that with our colleagues, so that will greatly expand network of people that we'll be reaching out to. We also have a history of people using us again. The clients who use us are very happy with our services, and I greatly enjoy working in local government. I feel like it's an opportunity to continue to give back to the profession. And if you were to select us, we would come to town, we would talk with each member of the council and look at, discuss with you what you see as the priorities for the community. We would also meet with stakeholders if you would like for us to do that. And we would let you define those stakeholders. Sometimes that might be department heads, it might be key community members, and we would develop a profile that would fit your community, and then we would go after candidates that match that profile. I would be happy to answer any questions you have about our process or our qualifications or anything like that.
Okay, where are you based?
I am in Salisbury, North Carolina.
Okay. And I've got the proposal here. You had a team, I think 4 people. Your name's on it, Rick Ginnix, Charlene Stevens, Michelle Morosky. Did I probably? Yeah, who
Yes.
all would we be maybe you could just talk a little bit about, how you see us engaging, working with you and your team, virtual versus in person versus off-site.
I would be the primary point of contact, and maybe Rick with me as well, but I'd be the primary point of contact. We would have, Michelle helps organize all our proposals, sends that out. Charlene is over all the recruiters. She's a former manager herself. And, but Rick and I, primarily me, would be the primary points of contact. We would also have back office support that would help us with background checks, degree verification, just coordinating with the candidates. But Rick and I, primarily me, would be the primary points of contact.
Okay. You mentioned a 14-week timeline in your proposal. Can you maybe talk through a little bit of how you see it unfolding in terms of, what happens first couple weeks, where it starts, where it stops, a little bit more detail about, the activities you see in those 14 weeks?
I'm having trouble hearing you a little bit, but what I think I heard you say is, what does the first couple of weeks look like?
Well, actually, is this better? Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Okay.
But,
I'd like to get a little bit better understanding of the 14-week timeline, if that's what's in the proposal in terms of, start to finish, when that starts, when you see it finished in 14 weeks, and kind of a little bit more, what happens in which weeks, and, get a feel for how those 14 weeks play out.
Well, the first couple of weeks, as I mentioned, is we're developing a profile, but we're meeting with the members of the Board of Commissioners in Holden Beach, doing our background information, and from that we will develop a position profile and brochure that highlights the community. We will then, that's a couple of weeks there. Then we will advertise. We like to advertise for 30 days to get the word out. After that, then we will do screening interviews. Rick and I will do screening interviews with the top candidates. You're going to have some people apply for this job that have no business applying for the job. We won't do screening interviews with those, but we will screening interviews with all the top candidates. We will give you the names of everybody that apply, but we will do screening interviews on the top candidates, make sure there's no surprises there, and then we will prepare a candidate book, present that to you. That will take a couple of weeks after the deadline for applications coming in. We will meet with you, go over the candidates, and then set up. What I would recommend is that you would then do virtual interviews with maybe 4, 5, 6 candidates, and we can help you with those interviews as well. And then from that, select a couple of candidates to come down to Holden Beach to interview in person. The interviews from the virtual to the in-person is probably another 3 or 4 weeks. And then after that, you'd make a selection. Normally a candidate, if you're a city manager someplace, they're going to need to give at least a month's notice to the community they're working at now. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about finding these candidates? You post it, you advertise, they respond. Do you do any kind of proactive reaching out to good candidates that may not be in the market but might be interested in the job?
Yes, we do a lot of outreach. We do some of that through social media. We have 17,000 hits to our webpage through all our LinkedIn accounts. We have 50,000 contacts there. If you look at combined for our recruiters, But I'll give you an example. I'm doing a recruitment in Virginia right now for a county administrator, and they have some neat economic development projects. So I was called like the regional economic development office for the state and talking to the director there, who are some candidates that may not be actively looking that I ought to reach out to. And she gave me the name of a couple of folks. One of our top candidates is the person that I reached out to through that. I will also be talking with managers in the region, and depending on what issues you have, we will look at different candidates that way. We'd want to get someone with coastal experience, obviously, maybe someone who is, hopefully you don't have to deal with any FEMA issues in the future, but that experience would be good. Coastal development, those are the things that we're going to be looking at for candidates. But we would narrow that down after we meet with the Board of Commissioners to find out what skill set you need in a manager.
You quoted a $25,000 fixed cost, but we recognize that there's probably additional costs for advertising, for travel, pass-through expenses, things like that. In order for us to move forward, we need to appropriate a total amount so that we can make sure we've got the funds in our budget to pay for everything. So we're not going to hold you to it, but can you give us a ballpark of what the all-in cost might be so that we can appropriate the proper amount and not get caught short?
Let me get to that. The advertisement is, whatever that is the total cost there. I would say, and that's probably a little less than $2,500. I think you may have another $2,500 in just travel expenses when you have the finalists in town for the interviews. It's customary for you to pay for their travel to the community and to put them up in a hotel. And I think you could do that for less than, I would think, $2,000, $2,500.
That's my question.
Yeah, okay.
Can you talk a little bit about your strategies for building a diverse candidate pool and avoiding the good old boys club?
GovHR MGT was formerly GovHR. It was, started out as female-owned company, and one of the things that GovHR prides themselves on is, and MGT now is diversity. The last community I managed was a majority minority community. When I got there, we had 0 African American department heads. When I left 6 years later, 16 department heads, we had 4 that were African American candidates. I don't think we changed standards at all, but we reached out, had further outreach to create a more diverse workforce, and I think the community appreciated that. That's something that I'm committed to as a professional, and our firm is committed to.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, additional questions for us?
No, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing, but again, I would just welcome the opportunity to work with y'all. I think you have a great community. I've vacationed there in the past, and I think you would have a lot of interest in this position. I'll say I think this is probably one of the most important decisions that you all will make at the board. It's not my firm's term tell you who to hire, but to help you hire the best candidate. And I think that the process we use we will bring you the biggest, most diverse pool of candidates, and we would be honored to assist you in this process.
Can you tell us if you will help us with providing salary and compensation guidance?
Yes, yes. We do that. We have a part of our firm does pay and class studies. So we utilize those folks to tell us, just look at the position we're recruiting for, what should be the salary for this position. And so we would do that on the front end.
Okay, have you done any work like that for Holden Beach in the past?
I have not
Okay.
worked with Holden Beach, no.
Okay. And I think you said that MGT was GovHR?
Formerly GovHR, yes, sir.
Okay, so did it get acquired? Did it just change its name? What was the transition?
The owner sold the company to MGT, and they're still part of the leadership team of MGT now, just in different roles.
What's your process for keeping us informed as we go through each of this? Like, how do you think that you would?
I would send you a weekly email once we get started, updating you on the number of applications that we've had, what the field looks like, and then I'm open for questions throughout the process in addition to the emails. And you'd have my cell phone number, and call, text, email, whatever your preference is, and I get back to you as soon as possible.
So you talked a little bit about, you would interview the top candidates first before we would do virtual interviews with about 4 to 5? Is that, so you would do those interviews and then recommend those 4 to 5 to us? Is that how it would work?
Yes, and I think we'd probably have more than 4 or 5, but the purpose of that is just to do screening interviews, just to find out if there's something in there, the candidate that we didn't find through social media, find out what their strengths are, find out if there's any issues, and then we would give you our assessment of those candidates, and then you pick the ones that you would like to do virtual interviews with, and then after that you would narrow it down to the in-person interviews.
So what numbers, just kind of ballparks, we get a feel for it? You do an initial, you get responses in, and then there'd be a kind of a weed down to a finalist.
I think that for the screening interviews, we'd be probably looking at 6 or 8 candidates. And then from that, depending on how many, what the board thinks, I think it could be 6 to 4, maybe do virtual interviews with. And then you'd like to cut maybe the in-person down to 2 or 3 candidates.
And that starts from an initial, but you said, you believe we're a real popular place. It's a good location. I mean, what do you think is going to come in the door to start with? How big do you think the initial pool will be before we weed it down to 6 to 8?
I had a hard time understanding. I couldn't understand that.
I don't know what's going, we're using a new system today, so that could be part of the problem. He was asking, how many do you think you would potentially get overall in the initial outreach and brochure?
Oh, I mean, I think you could get 30, 40 candidates. Now, some of them I don't think would, a large number of those won't be qualified for this position. But I think you'd get a good number of candidates. And we would go through those to weed out the ones that aren't qualified. And again, you would get the names of everybody that applied. And when we do the presentation with you all, if you say, hey, Lane, why didn't you interview this person? I know they don't have this experience, but I think what they did here is kind of interesting. We would go back and do a screening interview with those candidates as well.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you for your time,
Yep.
and I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Thank you. We
All right.
appreciate your
Well,
interest.
thank you for the opportunity to chat with you this morning.
Okay. Have a good day. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Heather,
Let's do a recess.
no, we have one at 9:45, then we can do a recess.
Do we, or did it get moved?
No, we have 9:45.
Oh,
Can you
okay,
tell
yeah.
us which
10,
microphones we should be using, like the one
It's-
that's hardwired,
You
the
guys
other
are
one?
talking, I mean, it's to that. It shouldn't be a problem. This hasn't changed for the sound system. This is what I've always used.
I mean, we can hear them perfectly
Yeah,
fine.
It's something I'm using. I've
Okay.
used it.
Well, he's not the only one that complained. I just want to know,
You're talking to this.
we're
Oh,
talking into that, not into this.
Okay.
This,
But it helps when you talk into that also.
But which one of these should we use? The
I
one
mean,
that,
these are all, I don't have
Either
those
or.
ones on. These.
oh, these aren't
are
even
the
on.
iPhones.
Okay, okay, so I was trying to do both, so,
Yeah,
okay.
I've got
Yeah.
this as a speaker.
This isn't
Okay.
even on,
Yeah,
so
that
that's,
hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
That's nothing that he's working on.
and this helps
Okay.
this will help. Okay, just wanted to understand,
They're just picking up the voice from the room, so.
but nobody's talking up there. All right, so now we have S. Renee.
Yep.
All right. You're marking down the money thing when they tell you? 'Cause
Yes,
I'm
I am.
not.
Well, yeah.
Heather, are you marking down the money thing when they tell you? I thought she might be. Because that was for them, not at the.
Renee Norlock.
Hi, Renee. My name's Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the town of Holden Beach. I've got Tracy Thomas with me. She's a town commissioner as well. The two of us were tasked with creating a special committee to facilitate the process of finding a new permanent town manager. So we've got Heather Fennell as our town clerk here, and we've got about 3 or 4 people, 5 people from the public in the audience. So we appreciate your time. Thank you for spending time today. We're interested in knowing more about your proposal, whatever you can elaborate or talk us through in terms of your approach and how you go about this type of work, time frame, tasks, things like that, and then hopefully have time for some questions by the end. So we will turn it over to you. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. I hope can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. If for some reason the call drops or fades, just please give me a call right back and we'll just carry on from there. As you know, we do executive recruitment, public sector executive recruitment. We've been doing that for many years now, decades actually. And I think we're probably maybe one of the oldest, but certainly I think one of the best agencies at doing public sector searches. Our territory covers primarily, we don't go on the other side of the Rockies. Travel-wise, that just doesn't make sense for us, but we do cover quite a large territory from Texas northward to the Midwest, over a lot of the mid-Atlantic states, and of course, Southeast. We do have experience in North Carolina. What I do want to underscore is, while my home of record is Tallahassee and has been for some time, we're not a Florida firm. We do a lot of work in Florida, but we've also had a lot of work in the Carolinas and certainly in other areas of the country. So we know our way around. We've got a lot of contacts. We've got a lot of clients that we've worked with over the years, but also candidates. We're well known in the industry. We're often asked to attend the ICMA conference and do special sessions or workshops at the national conference for ICMA, as well as state conferences. When it comes to North Carolina experience, I'm just going off the top of my head here. So most recently, Lake Lure comes to mind. That was probably about maybe 2.5 years prior to their recent disaster there. We certainly feel like they're going to make a good recovery there, but certainly something unexpected and very tragic for the region. We also have worked with Town of Landis, which is a rather small community, and I believe that's just northeast, if I have my directions right, of Charlotte. And we have done some work with Wake County. So from large to small, Wake County, we were actually involved in doing the recruitment for the county manager in Wake County on 2 different occasions. One successful search, and then that person retired. They called us back to do it again. And we've done some other work with Wake besides those particular positions. We've worked with Cumberland County, Durham County, City of Durham, lots of communities in and around North Carolina. Recently, we did York County, South Carolina, county manager, and we've done some work in South Carolina and Georgia, and of course, as I mentioned, Florida. So we know our way around, and we've got a very good search process in place. I think that is the foundational component to a good search. We know how to get from point A to point B. We know how to find good candidates. We know how to run a good process, make sure that everything is above board, that no one can question the process, that we've dotted every I and crossed every T as we go. And also, and I think as importantly, is to make sure that candidates and clients have a good experience throughout the search process. We know how to keep things moving forward and make sure that it doesn't stall, it doesn't go sideways, it doesn't do any of those things, so that, again, we get from point A to point B successfully. What we believe you're hiring us for is to bring you good candidates, very good candidates. We will do that. We know how to do that. We have an excellent team that's been highly trained to do outreach, to really get out there and shake the bushes for unknown candidates to us, but also we have the resources and the information to look at candidates we've worked with before, really get referrals from people about great candidates, just to make sure we have a good fit. So we've got a basic plan of what the job requirements are according to your job description and what you as a board tell us you want to see in the next manager. However, we need to do a little bit better than that and make sure we've got a good fit, and fit involves a lot of different things. We need to make sure it fits you as an agency, but also the candidate, because we want them to come and stay. We want them to come and put down some roots and be part of the community. We don't want it to be a stop along the way. And we also want to make sure it fits their career goals, the challenges that you have fit their career goals, as well as their personal goals of, again, being in the community and doing what this job entails. So we're looking at a well-rounded fit from two perspectives: your perspective, the community's perspective rather, and the candidate's perspective. And that's where I think we make a difference. I think compared to maybe some of the other firms that you talk to, we hear a lot about how personable we are, how thorough we are, how we treat people. Candidates have told us that they like working with us. And, they're not just another candidate or another number. We're not just checking another box. These are big decisions for you and for candidates. So we recognize that, and we take that very seriously. That said, we can start when you're ready to start, meet your timeline. We can certainly talk about that more. Ideally, what we like to do is have a conversation with you, the board, about what you're looking for, get a sense of what is needed, understand the dynamics of the community, what the community wants, and then from there, we hit the go button and we start putting ads out. We start developing a brochure. I think we probably sent you a sample, and we do our outreach, which is very heavy, personal, aggressive outreach. While we know that having North Carolina experience is probably a plus for a candidate, we also want to reach candidates that are outside of North Carolina currently that would do a good job for you, but also may have ties back to North Carolina, maybe even Holden for that matter, and they're out there. So we don't want to overlook people that are not necessarily in North Carolina right now. So we do look out of state. We do look in state. We do know a lot of people who are on the network, if you will, with the league there, and understand, I guess the professional network of managers throughout the state of North Carolina, which you do have a great one, by the way, and UNC Chapel Hill Institute of Government plays a big part of that. So we will definitely work within the state and within the networks that are established there. But I just want you to know that we go beyond the boundaries, and because you never know who you're going to find. There's usually someone who wants to come back. Maybe they have kids coming to school in North Carolina. Maybe they have elderly parents they need to come back and take care of. And again, like I said, maybe they're from there. So we want to make sure that we get it out there and get it get the word out that this opportunity is available, and we want to broadcast that far and wide. So from there, we evaluate candidates, we make recommendations to you about who we think are the stronger candidates and why, and we have recommendations to support that. But all along the way, we just assist you by giving you the best information, the most information, the information you need to make a really great decision. We're not choosing your manager. We're just providing you with information and our expertise along the way that helps you get to a good decision. So I think I was allotted about 15 minutes. I'm going to take a breather here and answer any questions, and we'll be glad to share any other information that you need.
Okay, thank you. Your proposal said $21,500, I think, was fixed fee, and then $4,500 estimated expenses. As you probably know, as a municipality, we need to appropriate the right amount of money to cover everything so that we don't run into issues. So you're comfortable with those numbers in terms of overall, I think it's like, what, 26,000 total, all in, as something we would set aside?
That is correct. The only cost outside of that would be if the town chooses to provide, to cover travel expenses for a candidate coming in. It's hard to estimate. I would say, and these are just numbers I'm throwing out, I would say if you interview 5 candidates, probably 2 or 3 of those will be within driving distance. And the cost, if you should cover them, are probably, I don't know, mileage from 100 miles away maybe, or something like that. We may have a candidate or 2 that is further, and it would entail some cost related to maybe air travel. But again, our candidates are smart folks. They live in the world of local government for the most part, and understand that it's, they do a good job as far as getting, what I call reasonable travel cost. So again, it's hard to gauge it, but I'm going to just say there may be additional $3,000 perhaps on average if you decide that you as a town would cover those expenses for candidates. That is, I just want to point out that's not included in our fee, but everything else is included in our fee. The background checks, our travel, anything, advertising, whatever we may encounter, and so we don't add to those costs. Whatever it actually costs us, they're pass-through costs at the actual amount. And again, we understand it's your money, so we do a good job of keeping those items at a minimum also.
I have a couple questions. Who would we be working with? Would we be working with you or someone else on your team?
For this search, you'll be working with me. I have a couple of other team members that'll be behind the scenes that could probably answer questions if for some reason you don't get me right away. But honestly, my cell phone number will be available to everyone, and it's just a matter of calling and we get back to you very quickly.
Perfect. I just want to say I like the national outreach that you outlined, and I was wondering if you could build a little bit on your how you do find a diverse candidate pool to avoid the good old boy club.
So we do this no matter whether you ask us to do this or not. It's a standard for us. What we do is for every search, we know the usual places that we really should place ads. ICMA comes to mind. But what we do is we search and seek out places that are going to reach a diverse pool of candidates. And I like diversity in every way. It may not be just racial and gender. It may be, the backgrounds, right? Maybe they're, mid-career instead of senior career. I want to get just a nice mix. So you have a good pool of diversity in every sense of the word. That said, a lot of the agencies that we advertise with, trying to think one that comes to mind. Well, they have what I call add-ons to their advertisement, which means they target, in addition to where we want to place the ad, they have, another 10 entities that they will send the ad to, which are specifically groups targeting diversities of every kind. And we'll get that. We'll say, yeah, we want that too. In addition to that, when we do our outreach, I'll give you an example, National Forum for Black Public Administrators, NFBPA, very well-known agency, been around a long time. I know a lot of members. My past city manager here in Tallahassee is the past president of NFBPA, and I have worked with her and others within that organization for years to, again, make sure word gets out. Because that's when you build a diverse pool, is at the front, when you do your outreach and your advertising. And that way you ensure when you get to your top candidates, it is a diverse group of top candidates. So we do have some, what I call additional efforts. Again, we do these for every search, but they are an extra step to ensure that.
So can you just briefly give some estimates of, you start with a pool of respondents or reach out, and then it gets whittled down to, 3, 4, 5, to a finalist. How big do you think that initial pool is, and how many steps to go through it and get it down to finalists?
So the first step to get down to finalists is I do preliminary interviews with candidates. And based on that interview, I get a lot of information that I share with you, as well as formulating my own opinion of this is a well-rounded candidate. Are they qualified, but more importantly, are they the fit that we talked about earlier? And then from there, I make recommendations to you, supporting, again, sharing with you why I think this candidate deserves a further look. At that time, I do share with you the names and the basic positions or some information about all candidates who applied. So you're not in the dark. You're not just like, oh, I've got to take Renee's recommendation for this, because I don't know who applied. No, I let you know who all's in the pool also. If you decide you want to tweak my recommendation somehow, we will do that. That said, my recommendation will be based off those preliminary interviews, off of some, I'm going to say background work that we've done, meaning we've snooped around and learned about what each candidate has in their past. If it's something I think is insurmountable as far as a hurdle, I will tell you that. I may not even recommend it based on that, but I'll let you know that. So I present to you candidates, give you a lot of information, well-rounded information to let you know why I recommended them, what my concerns are, if any, and why I feel like they deserve a further look. And then from there, we set up an interview process with you. And I walk you through that, and I help you get to know more about these candidates so you can assess candidates, and I'm there to help you with that. Ultimately, that's what leads to you making a decision on who you want to move forward and hire. As far as numbers, these days numbers are kind of weird, have been since COVID, honestly. I might not have 50 candidates this time, whereas 5 years ago maybe I would. I might have 30 candidates now, but I don't get hung up on that, to tell you the truth. What I need are good candidates. I need a handful plus of really good candidates for you. And so that said, I suspect in the average that I see is I usually do preliminary interviews with about 10 to 12 candidates myself. From that group, rarely do I have all 10 or 12 I want to recommend. I usually separate them out. Group 1, maybe group 2, and maybe there's internals in a different group. But what I will do is just decide at that point how strong the candidates are. More than likely, and I'm just again giving you a number, probably 5 to 6 candidates that I will recommend to you. From that recommendation meeting, you may feel strong about all of them and say, let's interview all of them. Or you may say, you know what? We as a group like 4 of these candidates, let's bring them in for interviews.
I think we're running out.
Okay.
Okay, we ran over a little bit here, but thank you very much.
Yep.
We truly appreciate your time and your insights and the help that you provided us. And thank you very much, and hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry about the running over. I
No,
know
we
you
did
have
it.
a
We did
decision to
it.
make. I just want to reassure you that you will be very happy with our services if we're the selected group, and I hope we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Baker
Baker
Tilly,
Tilly.
we don't have a name.
Edward Williams
Edward
and
Williams.
possibly Carol Jacobs, but I only have one phone number because I'm gonna
Okay.
call them.
And they were on the thing. They were the proposal.
Okay.
They were the proposal.
Hi, Edward. This is Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the town of Holden Beach. I have Tracy Thomas here with me. She's another commissioner. The two of us were selected to form a special committee to facilitate the process of bringing in a new permanent town manager. We also have Heather Finnell here, who's the town clerk, taking notes, and we've got about 4 or 5 people from the public in the audience. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate your availability to meet our schedule. We'd like for you to tell us more about your proposal, highlighting what you think differentiates your firm and makes you special, or anything you think we should be aware of with regards to your proposed services. And we've got roughly till 10:30, so, leave some time for questions, but we want to make sure we've addressed your questions as well as, the ones that are top of mind. So with that, you have the floor. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Commissioner, for this opportunity. I hope you can hear me well. I was not able to hear you all very well. Notwithstanding, please let me know if you can hear me clearly.
Well, yeah, I'm probably same problem on this end. If you can speak out as loud as you can, louder would be good, but we can hear you, yes.
Very good. So I'm going to jump in, and I've got a few minutes, so let me give this the best the best shot I've got. You received from us our process or proposal and all the steps and what have you, fully recognizing that this is the most critical decision, or one of the most critical decisions as commissioners you will make. Our firm, basically, we bring the expertise, the commitment, character, the competence to these processes. We understand the difference between leadership and management, and we work with you to first identify the needs of the city, in fact, of the town. In fact, I have started the process of reviewing some of your strategic plan, your goals, some of what I call the big rocks that are important to the city in terms of infrastructure, in terms of tourism. So basically, we first diagnose before we treat. That's one way of presenting this. We get an understanding of what your needs are, what your organizational culture is, and then we develop a process that is fairly simple, yet very, very comprehensive. The first thing we do is we listen. We try to develop an understanding of not only your vision, but also the challenges and opportunities the next town manager will invariably face. Simply put, we get it. This is what we've done for the last 35 years. On a very personal note, this is all I do. My background is in human resources, organizational development, strategic planning, performance management. But that's the work we do. My focus is solely 100% in understanding organization, and then finding the working with the commissioners to develop a desired candidate profile, which we then market. We market on kind of 3 different levels. One, we post on the typical or traditional professional association job boards, but we also advertise directly to those individuals we call passive job seekers. They may not be seeking a job, but based on the profile, we believe they may be a good fit. And because of the relationship and because of their membership in our network, professional network, we can confidently and safely present the opportunity to those passive candidates who then oftentimes consider the opportunities we present. Then we also search our database. We have an ongoing database of, I'd say over the past 15 years, we've done over 300 similar searches. And we then contact those individuals, share the opportunity. We, of course, use social media. LinkedIn is a very good source for that. So we then go through the process of identifying the candidate after we have tailored the search to the desired candidate and the organizational culture, and those traits, attributes, qualifications that the commission establishes as essential for the town. We have worked with similar organizations in terms of size, in terms of complexity, service delivery model. And so we fully recognize that one size does not fit all. So we first try to listen to understand what's your issue, what's your challenge. We then present candidates who we believe meet those criteria that you've established. We work for you. We guarantee our work for at least 12 months. If for any reason you end the employment relationship between your two town manager and the town, we will redo the search for half the cost. And basically, we have what I call a strong placement record, where more than 95% of the individuals we have placed over the past 7 or 8 years have been with or have remained with the firm. So that redo that we just talked about, I think we've done maybe 2 or 3 in the past 6 years. In the past 6 years, we've done maybe 2 or 3. So that speaks volumes as to our strategy, our network, and the process of review and classifying and identifying the candidates. So beyond the resumes and cover letter, we give the town commissioners an opportunity to, one, yes, you will see resumes and cover letters, but we want to know everything about the candidates before they come to you all for evaluation. We have no interest beyond the town getting the leader they desire, and we work with you to achieve that. So ultimately, it's your decision. As I said, we listen. We focus directly on what you direct us in terms of desired candidate profile. You decide, and we are there to support every step of the way. We go beyond that. After the process, we provide support, be it for strategic planning, performance management, compensation, and these are additional services, but we make them available. Coaching. We believe that the town manager should definitely have some clearly defined, measurable goals, and we can help with those after. So these are post-placement services we offer. We also provide what we call a one-way video interview. So beyond the resume and cover letters, you also get an opportunity to see or hear the candidate respond to questions extemporaneously, which they see by, one way of defining it, describing it is FaceTiming, recorded FaceTiming by yourself. So the candidates read the question for the first time, they're recorded, and the commission gets to see the resume, cover letter, their responses, and due diligence. I want to know if you've ever been fired, if you have any type of issues out there that you haven't. We ask for full disclosure. So if you've been fired, bankruptcy, any type of legal or social issue that's out there, we want to know. And so our process is very straightforward. We meet with you, we develop a profile, we go to work, we identify those individuals. And this is all based on our record, our knowledge of the industry, our extensive communication network, and what we call a proven methodology, which we have found to work very well. In our proposal, I shared several cities, towns, municipal organizations, which we have actually assisted over the past 6 years. And that is what I call a testament to the work we do. So I'll stop here and see if there are any specific questions. I would love to hear from you instead of keep on this and talking. If there's specific questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Understood. In the proposal lays out a 100 to 120 day timeline. Maybe you can kind of talk a little bit more to that in terms of, what's involved up front, what's involved later, how that, how comfortable you are with that timeline and how, what happens when, and as much as you can elaborate how we would work together, what the touch points are, or, the step, when you need to meet with us in this timeline, what do we need to do, what do you need to do, how do you see it working?
Yes, sir. In most cases, we say 90 to 120 days from start to finish, which start being a search agreement. We sign a contract that we will do X, Y, and Z, and you will do X, Y, and Z, so you can understand. Once we have an agreement signed, we start the process by having individual conversations with each of the town commissioners. We want to hear from each member to understand the challenges, the opportunity, the perspective. Ultimately, these individuals will work with the commissioners and the community. And so the first step is we want to have an agreement. We will then schedule meetings if we can. If you want to, we can be there in person. We're based in scheduling. We could meet virtually. But to hear from each of the commissioners, to listen more than anything else, to listen, to understand their perspective on this opportunity. Once we hear from them, we will work with your city secretary or whomever the commission designate to gather some information. We will basically draft a profile based on the conversations with the commissioners. There's some alternatives or additions. We could do a community survey if that's what you'd like. And so basically we get the profile, send it back to the commission, you approve. That could take a week or two, depending on time availability. Once we have a profile developed, we draft the marketing and recruiting materials, which we send back to the commissioner, the liaison, for final approval before going live. Once we go live, we post for about 30 days. We start the review process after 30 days, and then assign due diligence written questionnaire. We want to get a sample of their writing skills and abilities, so we do that. And we also assign the one-way video questions based on the conversations or the issues that the commission presents or we capture from that. I'd say week 7 or so, 30 days, we then present you a semifinal report, which would be what I call your top 8 or 10 candidates for the commission, commissioners to independently select their top 4 or top 5, just in case one drops out. The commission then independently select candidates. We do background, we do references, we do a media scrub to see if there's anything out there, and then present you with a final report, schedule interviews. We'll provide you with the process for the interview, the questions for the interview, and we'll be your technical support throughout the process. Again, if you want us to be on site for interviews, we can accommodate that as well. But we basically serve, once the semifinal report is presented to you and you've selected the candidates you desire to interview, we serve as your guide. We serve as an extension to your office. And we basically assist in ensuring that you identify and interview the candidates that best meets the profile you've developed or established. Once you complete the interviews, you make a decision. We extend the offer. If necessary, we assist with the employment agreement. And basically, it becomes your process. The only reason I add 90 to 100 as opposed to be specific, that individual you select may be employed. This individual may be required by contract to give a 30-day notice. In most cases, it won't be a 2-week notice. It may be sometimes 30 days or 90 days. It depends on the individual. So the process itself is simple. The first week is paperwork. The second week, developing the profile. launching the search, advertising, recruiting, marketing, outreach, bringing back a report to you with your top candidates, helping you to select your top 4 or 5, interviewing and gathering additional information, interviewing, establishing your finalists, if you would, and then helping with or assisting with negotiating of an employment agreement, and depending on availability, solidifying start time and close the search process. So that's a long answer, but that's kind of,
No,
I hope that addressed some of the issues that I think I heard. Thank you.
That was good. I have one clarifying question on the contract. Do you help us with salary and compensation guidance?
Can you please repeat that, Commissioner?
Sure. Do you help us with salary and compensation guidance?
Absolutely. Well, we can. There are several things that you'd have to establish. For example, I know that, well, yes, the simple answer is yes. It will depend on what's your competitive market. How do you intend to, for example, I know that you've got an interim in the position. There's a published salary on that. Your previous city manager, town manager, has what I call time and position, so the salary may not be contingent with market. But yeah, we'll be happy to work with you to identify what we call a market competitive salary or total reward that could include benefits, if additional benefits, or a base salary. There may be vehicle allowance, again, whatever the commission decides. But yes, simple answer is we'll be happy to help you to ensure that you're offering a competitive salary.
Okay, thank you.
Which will be a factor in whether or not people apply. Yes, ma'am.
Your proposal stated a $29,500 fixed fee. I know that there's likely to be additional travel costs, advertising, pass-through expenses, and also some options here for add-on services. I think you've alluded to a couple of them. We need to, to move forward, we need to appropriate the right amount of money to cover everything. So we're not going to hold you to it, but can you give any guidance in terms of what an all-in number would be for us so that we could budget appropriately?
I could get back to you with that, but again, we're talking a visit. Those will average somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500. Advertising, you'd be looking at another $2,000. Let me provide you with that before the day's over. I'm happy to do that. We're talking about maybe an additional $4,000 or $5,000.
Okay.
Just for the basic, none of the additional. But in terms of advertising and travel, of course, we can minimize that by doing some virtual and just relegating the interview, the in-person to the interviews, if that's absolutely necessary. But advertising would be looking somewhere about $2,000.
Okay, yeah, we're not looking for a binding number, more budgetary, and if you think 5,000 is the right budget to have, then that's good. You don't need to, refine it. So.
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yes, sir.
Okay. You've got a 6-person team. Where are you based?
In Texas.
Okay, so you've got Texas, looks like Kansas. Kansas, Chicago. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about how you work together. Who's our point of contact? How does this team work together to meet our needs?
We've got some incredible people in our team, Commissioner, but this is one that you'll have me. That's as good as it gets. No, seriously, I will be your point of contact. You will have my number, cell phone, office number. And this is what I call a trust relationship. I have to be able to hear from you. I have to be able to ensure that you can hear from me. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad to provide references in terms of how I work with towns, districts, organizations, cities. Communication is important. So if I'm selected, if you're selected us, if you are to select us, You would be working directly with myself. I would be supported by our entire team. This is not a competition, so we work together. When I get a project, my entire team supports, but you would basically have access to me via email, phone, text, or telephone.
Okay.
I think we're good on our end. Do you have questions for us?
Well, I've got a couple. I would love to hear, how would you describe the culture of the organization? In preparation for this conversation, I did a little research, and there is a lot going on. So I know oftentimes the employees are the ones impacted by these decisions, sometimes not fully understanding all the implications. So my question is to the commission, how would you describe the organizational culture right now?
Go for it.
I would have to say in turmoil. There's some big changes going, there's a division, and there's, change afoot, and a lot of divisions across two different perspectives. We're growing very quickly, we're growing extremely quickly off the island, and we've got a lot of different factions.
Yes. Commissioner Thomas, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that was a very good answer. We are in changing over, and it's been reflected in some of the things that are happening in the community. And a lot of what you're reading about is not actually Holden Beach, but the extended community of Brunswick County. So just be aware.
Yes, yes. Okay, one of the things that I looked at was some of what appears to be your strategic goals. What would you say are the top 2 or 3? Again, it may or may not be accurate, so I want to hear from you. What are the top 2, let's say top 2 organizational goals or challenges or opportunities the new town manager would invariably have to manage?
Good question. I would say the top goal is to be effective in moving forward and not sit here and, argue and spin our wheels and get nothing done. I think, there's a couple initiatives that absolutely have to move forward, and I think there's agreement on those. I don't know why they're not moving forward, but, the ability to get things done and move ahead on the non-controversial or the ones we all agree on, and then, we've got controversial ones that are just going to have to be a vote or have to be decided a direction. But, to me, the number one objective is to move ahead, make progress, do the things that we need to do and that everybody agrees we need to do.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. What is one essential that you think the firm you select must bring to the table on day one? And how can I ensure that I answer that essential to give you the best opportunity to compare the firms that you will evaluate? So let me rephrase the question. What is one thing the firm must present to you convincingly to ensure that you can measure the firm's ability to deliver as you expect?
Personally, I'm looking for a very strong national reach from whichever firm that we choose. I want a diverse candidate pool so that we can avoid the good old boys club going forward.
And mine would be transparency, just so that we all know what's going on, we're sharing it, and there's full transparency.
Very good. Well, I think our records speak for itself, and I have shared with you the places that we have served, the size of communities, the reach from 700 or 800 in population to a million, over a million. But we also have a record of communicating with the bosses. So in this case, I have no opinion. I give you the best. Your decision is final, and I'm okay with that. I give you the best information available from my professional perspective. But I'm okay with you telling me that's not what we want. We can do it differently, and I'm perfectly okay with that. What we try to do is to present this, as I said before, this is a trust process. So we give information, and if I see you're going down the wrong road, I will let you know. But I also respect whatever decisions you make. And so I don't want to extend this anymore. We're right on the 30-minute mark, and I will stop talking and be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you. We appreciate
pleasure.
your time. It's been very, very helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great day. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
These guys have a slideshow, the one's coming up.
Okay.
Do we have that in our package too?
The slide?
Oh, no, I could add it online. That's not in the thing.
No, I mean, because I have two things for,
Yeah, one's the proposal and one's
two things
supplemental.
for Colin.
I don't think so, but I made copies of it. And I could add it online so people.
I'm just wondering what the two things are.
They gave.
Oh, one is
proposal and then,
appendices. Ah, I
yeah,
see, okay.
yeah.
So I don't need to look at that. Okay, thanks.
And when I call him, he's gonna conference a few people in. He said,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
So much for a bathroom break. Hold it one more half
30
hour.
more and a half
Guess I
hours.
should have done 30 instead of 15.
Yeah.
I know, that's why I told you. It's there, we're gonna use it.
All right, let's see here. Let me make sure I'm calling Colin.
Hello?
Hello, this is Tom Myers, Town of Holden Beach. Is this Colin?
This is Colin. How are you, Tom? Excuse me it's okay if I use your first name, I hope.
Absolutely. Did you have more people that you wanted to conference in?
I do. Just give me a minute. I'll lose you for a second, and then I'll be back, and then I'll lose you for another second as I add the third person. So
No problem. Just
just
let us
give
know
me
when
a
you're ready
moment.
to, just let us know when you're ready to go.
Okay, I will do so. All right. Let's see. There it was. Okay, I've got Scott, now I'm gonna go for Steve. Okay, I think I've got everybody. Let's see, Holden Beach, are you there?
We're here.
Hello?
Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you fine. Scott?
I'm here. Good morning.
Steve?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
All right.
Great, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the Town of Holden Beach. I also have Tracy Thomas sitting with me. She's another board commissioner member. We have been tasked with creating a subcommittee, both of us, to facilitate the process to select a new permanent town manager. So we have received your proposal, received your supplemental information, and just now received the slides that you're going to be talking through. They're on the screen here. I've not looked at them, we just got them. But we're hoping to have a good dialogue in terms of your proposal, let us understand a little bit more about it, anything special about your approach, your qualifications, the uniqueness of your firm, why we should pick you, and items like that. So we're trying to stay informal, and we'll just turn it over to you and go from here. So you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, well, Steve, you say
Yes, sir,
something?
I can't, with all due respect, I can't hardly hear the representatives of Holden Beach. I'm not sure if it's their voice pickup or what it is, but I can't hardly hear them. Maybe it's just me, but at this point, I can't hardly hear a word they're saying. It's all garbled.
Yeah,
Is it garbage or is
I
it-
can hear fairly well.
Is it too
Not
quiet or is
great,
it
but
garbage?
I've got my finger in my ear and it's helping.
Wow. We're really loud here, but I guess it must, is it garbled?
It sounds like you're underwater.
Can you hear me any better than Tom?
Yeah, we can put it right in.
Hold on, we're working on something here.
That sounded better to me. Steve, you're the test case, I guess.
It's a little better, but it's still not real clear.
Okay, we're gonna move the mic.
We're moving the mic closer here. Is this any better? We're moving it close to us.
Much better from my end. Steve?
I'll have to listen some more as soon as they speak. I couldn't hear anything.
Can you hear us now?
That's much better, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you guys are the last one before break, so we can run over if we run out of time. Sorry for the difficulty in getting this started.
Oh, technology, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it works.
Well, we're actually in a
Okay.
transition to a new technical platform, so that might be part of this, is we're trying to improve it, but we're in progress, actually. This is the first time with some new stuff here, so thank you for your patience. Did you hear the introductions, or should we start over?
Okay, well, what I'd like to do is, you said 15 minutes, so I'd like to take about the first 8 and kind of run through our process a little bit and tell you a little bit about our firm. First of all, I'm the owner and principal, senior partner, I guess, in Collin Benziger and Associates. Scott Krim is with me. Oh, before I go, I've been doing this for 27, 28 years now. Scott Krim is the managing partner, and he's been with us just over a year. He's got a background in government, primarily in the courts, and quick learner and drinking from the fire hose, but he's done extremely well in that period. And then I have with me Steve Sorrell, and Steve's been with us, what, about 4 or 5 years, Steve?
Yes, sir.
And Steve has one of those backgrounds. It's a little bit like yours, Tom, only maybe even more so. He started out as an engineer, and in the process of his career in local government, he's been a finance director, a public safety director, an assistant city manager, a city manager, and then spent the last 17 years before joining us as the executive director of Emerald Coast Utilities, which is basically the utilities that service Pensacola, Florida, and Escambia County. Was it it's not Santa Rosa, or is it Santa Rosa?
Yes, it is Santa Rosa. Yes, Santa Rosa is part of it.
So you had about what? How many people did you serve, Steve?
About 300,000.
Yeah. So he had one of those, one of the most varied careers I've ever seen in local government. And it's helpful because he brings a unique set of skills. But let's talk a little bit about what makes us special. I think 2 things, well, there's a lot of things, but recognizing time limitations.
Actually, you have a little bit more time. You're good till 11 o'clock, so.
Okay, well, thank you. And I probably will use it. Reliability, we say what we're going to do and we do it. And there's 2 examples I like to cite in particular. Number one, in the almost 28 years we've been in business, we've never missed a major project milestone. So once you get a schedule from us and once we agree to that schedule, you can take that to the bank. We will not miss a deadline. Now, you may want to move things around a little bit just because things happen, and that's fine. But at our end, it's guaranteed we'll meet that schedule. The second thing is, in the 28 years almost that we've been in business, we've never asked a client for more money. Once we give you a price, it's again, you can take it to the bank. We're not going to change it. And the reason is we feel we're the experts in this field. And as experts, we should be able to foresee all the unforeseen possibilities. We don't believe in unforeseen events. And the bottom line is I'd rather be able to make that statement and say that we've never charged more than our quoted price than to pick up a couple $1,000s here and there. So that's an example of reliability. Our other thing is customer service. You're going to have our cell phone numbers. The team is going to be basically Scott and Steve, and I'll be kind of overseeing it, keeping track of things, making sure everything's going as it should be. But you'll have our cell phone numbers. You should feel free to call us at any time. But the other side of the equation in one of these recruitments is the candidates. And we need to keep them informed, not just you, but them, so that everything goes smoothly. And we're told that we're the best in the business at actually doing that, keeping the candidates in the loop, and I know we're very good at keeping the officials in the loop. So that's two things I think that really set us apart. Now there's some other things we'll talk a little bit about in the next couple minutes. The first step in our process is to meet with the elected officials, to come to Holden Beach, and to sit down with you. And frankly, that's the key to the success. The candidates' chemistry with the officials, you and your compatriots on the board, is going to be the key. If the chemistry's not there, the manager's not going to succeed. So the first thing we need to do is get a good feel for you and who you are and who the other members of the board are. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have to get to know the staff, and we need to get to know the environment to get a real feel for Holden Beach. Now, we've done coastal recruitments before in North Carolina. So I don't think the environment's going to be that unusual, but there'll be some differences, and we need to be aware of them. We'll then go out into the marketplace, and we do recruiting. I mean, that's what we are. We're an executive search firm. So we're going to reach out to lots of people that we know that are good fits for Holden Beach. Of course, that goes back to the first step. Once we have met with you and seen the environment, we'll know who's going to be a good fit. We're going to advertise because, frankly, some candidates come from that. We have an email list of exceptional people. There's about 14,000 on it. Now, they're not all exceptional, but there's a good number that are. And we're going to go into our database and see who's available, who we can pull in, convinced that Holden Beach is a place for them. That normally takes about 3 weeks. And then we're going to, once we've got all our candidates in, we're going to do our background screening. And that involves an interview with one of us, probably two. And we'll compare notes and we'll come up with the top 10, 12 candidates. And this is another thing that really sets us apart. If you look at, I think it's the last appendix, I think it's E in our proposal. Yeah, it's the vetting process. It's a newspaper article written by Dale Martin, who was one of our candidates. And it talks about our vetting process. And it's something that, frankly, it's one of our claim to fame. We're extremely thorough. And there's a second part of that, and that is that when we turn candidates over to you, which I'll get to in a minute, we've already vetted them. So we know who they are. It's not like we're going to turn them over and let you pick finalists and then we'll start vetting. We're going to make sure that we know who we have and that they're great candidates, and we're going to, so that when you get them, you know that you're dealing with high quality people. We will do the initial screening, in other words, and then we're going to go through our vetting process. Once we've done that, We'll send the materials to you via email. The staff, if somebody wants a hard copy, the staff can print it out. We do recommend a two-sided copy because our packages can be quite lengthy. Those packages will include the candidate's cover letter, resume, a document we asked them to create, which is a candidate introduction. We asked them to answer about 16 questions. We tell them that a good introduction is about 5, maybe 6 pages. Given there's a page of boilerplate, that means that they're answering about 4 questions per page. It's really a test to see if they can write, if they can communicate, if they can prioritize. And it also gives you a tool where you can compare, say, you normally send between 6 and 10 candidates for you to look at. It gives you an opportunity to compare the candidates along by the similar questions they were asked and answered. So we have a cover letter, the resume, the candidate introduction. We're going to run extensive background checks, criminal, civil, credit, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to double verify their education, their employment for the past 15 years. And then we're going to give you about a week to digest that material, and then we'll talk to you about who you think should be a finalist. And our goal is to give you ideally 8 or 10 really strong candidates. We can get you kind of in the ballpark, and then we'd like you to pick from those, say, 8 or 10 to pick your 5 finalists. Now, we do like 5 finalists. We find that it's a good number. We're not going to get upset if you only want to talk to 4. You may want to talk to them by Zoom first, or you may be comfortable spending money to bring them in person. Ultimately, I think you need to bring in at least 3 finalists to actually talk to and interview, because there's frankly just something different about face-to-face and video and telephone. So once you pick your finalists, about 2 weeks later, we'll have interviews, and that will include a reception with you. I know in North Carolina, you cannot reveal the names of the candidates, so we have to hold this pretty close to the vest. It will include, ideally, a meeting with staff. That can be a little tricky too because of confidentiality. We'll do one-on-one interviews with each of the elected officials. Call it speed dating, round robin, whatever. Again, that's to test their chemistry, and that goes back to what I said initially, where the key to success or failure with a candidate is their chemistry with the board. I think great candidates will have chemistry with you, but they'll have great chemistry with the people that succeed you as well. But that's the way to test it, is to look them in the eye and ask them a whole series of questions that normally allow about 40 minutes, and then rotate. And then we do a full board interview where candidates will come before you one at a time and answer questions. We'll help you through the selection process. We have one that works very nicely. And then if you'd like, we'll help you negotiate the contract. And then we'll give you a 1-year guarantee where we'll come back for expenses only if something doesn't work out for any reason, really. I know our brochure says, or our proposal says it's for an act of God. Usually, even with an act of God, we'll give you a discount because it just doesn't seem right to have a candidate placed and, not get at least a year. So, anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Want to leave some time for you to ask questions.
Okay,
We really do want to work with you. We're excited about this possibility.
Okay. Thank you. Your proposal lists 34,500. I assume there's a potential additional travel costs, advertising costs, out-of-pocket things that we would need to cover, just for...
No.
No?
No.
It's all in?
It's all inclusive.
Okay.
Our travel, our advertising, our background checks, everything. The only thing you have to cover Beyond that is the cost of bringing the candidates in for an interview.
Okay.
I hate keeping track of expenses.
Okay. I think you've got the timeline here. I did notice in the news that you've been selected by North Myrtle Beach to do their search. On a clear day, I can see them from my beach. How's that going to work? Are we going to compete? Are we going to have synergies by doing both those? What's your perspective?
I will definitely have synergies, and we'll, I guess the best answer to that is that we're going to present to North Myrtle Beach 8 or 10 candidates. They'll be great candidates, but only one of them can get the job. And so there's going to be some overlap probably between the candidates. It's not going to be the other 7, I'll tell you that right now, because each city is unique, and we need to make sure we do get the right fit. And that works again on both sides. It's the right fit for you and the right fit for North Myrtle Beach. And North Myrtle Beach, of course, is in South Carolina. I've got a candidate that I think is really, really strong, but he's not going to be able to work in North Carolina because he's retiring out of the retirement system there. So he may well be the person who's in North Myrtle Beach, and then we've got 7 or 8 others that, if they're the right fit, we'll recommend them to you. Now, chances are there'll be 2 or 3 that actually come over. It's not like there's going to be 7 or 8. But it doesn't hurt to have our name out there advertising North Myrtle Beach and then followed up right by Holden Beach, because they're, similar areas of the country, but not the same state.
No, that's true, but we definitely like to differentiate ourselves from Myrtle Beach. Or north.
I noticed that you're a family-oriented beach.
That's right.
I'm not so sure about North Myrtle Beach.
It's a playground we can go to pretty close, yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you have questions?
And that'll draw
That was
different
one of mine.
people.
Yeah.
We did a grouping a few years ago where one of the finalists showed up and took one look at the town and saw what was going on there, and he said, this isn't for me and my family, I'm sorry.
Yep.
He withdrew.
I also noticed in your proposal that, you're not real keen on generic websites, newspapers, things like that. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about how you find these good candidates, especially ones that may not be actively looking but might be interested.
Yeah, the generic websites, I'll just say they produce a lot of candidates, but they're not qualified, generally speaking. The professional websites, the International City County Management Association, the North and South Carolina chapters thereof, those are the ones that tend to produce the most candidates. But again, we're going to be calling people now. We can reach maybe 75, maybe 100 people with our marketing, but that's not the whole marketplace, so to speak. If somebody, say, grew up in Holden Beach, but they're a manager in California, they may not be. They're probably not going to be on our target list. But that's where the other things come into play, because where you've got, and why we allow 3 weeks for the recruiting period, we want the industry to do our work for us to some degree. We find that there's synergy created by the telephone calls we make, by the advertising, by the email list. If somebody, if Sally grew up in Holden Beach, but she's in a beach town in California, Frank, who's a manager up in Maryland, may get the announcement. Sally may not. But he'll forward it to Sally because, hey, I know she grew up in South Carolina. I know it was a beach town. Maybe she'll be interested. So, again, it's the actual telephone calls. We'll have a list of people we're going to call. And it'll be our database, it'll be our advertising, and it'll be the email list. And you put them all together, and there is a synergy that's created. Now, there's one thing I will tell you that we often do, and that is we have a 3-week deadline. If we're not happy with the candidates at the end of 3 weeks, we'll extend it for another 2 weeks and do some more recruiting. And we often find, for some reason, I don't understand it, that we get better candidates in this when we extend than we did in the first go-around. It doesn't happen all the time, it does sometimes. But we're going to make sure we have some great candidates for you. And if we do extend, it's not going to change the project schedule. We'll just work faster on our vetting.
Will you help us with salary and compensation guidance?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every search we do a salary survey. And we've just done one. No, we haven't done it yet. We're doing one for North Myrtle Beach. We also are doing Wilmington up the road too. I know that's not very far, but it's obviously a totally different ball game in terms of size and expected compensation. So, but we plan to do a salary survey for you, and we'll have data from North Myrtle Beach to start with. I think it's a little bigger though, so it may not be. It may be at the top of our range. So we'll see. But we'll reach out to other beach communities and find out what the managers are making. Give you some ideas.
I'm good. I think that was a
think
pretty
we're good.
comprehensive presentation, and I read through your thing. So
Yeah, very good. Do you have questions for us?
Yeah, a couple. Is your assistant city manager, I think it's Christy Ferguson, is she going to be interested in the position?
Yes, she will. She should be considered.
Okay. That's not a problem. It makes it a little easier if she's not, but just because the internal candidate frequently gets the job, and there are candidates who will not apply if there's an internal candidate. But you know what? We have a lot of internal candidates, and we deal with it regularly. Your population's around 930, but you have a summertime population of nearly 10,000, I think I read somewhere.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, we've got a combination that the population be more or less full-time permanent residents. Then we've got a group of second homeowners that don't rent their house but come down on weekends and stuff. And then we've got the rental homes, which is a sizable percentage, and they rent out in the summer. So it's really 3 kind of groups, full-time residents, second homeowners that don't rent, and then the other extreme is pure rental investment property, absentee owners, but renting their homes for money, that's their investment.
Sure.
So
the Airbnb crowd or whatever.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So that's the nature of our demographics, if you will. And then we've got a huge off-island group that comes to visit and use the beach.
You've got a beach.
Yes, that's exactly right.
8 or 9 miles. I couldn't figure that out. One place I read 8, and one place I read 9.
It probably shrinks and grows on the end.
I hear you. And then the last question I had, this is really not all that relevant, but I noticed that you're demolishing your pier, but there's an adjacent pier.
No, we're demolishing the pier building. There's a building in front of it that's
Can't be-
I misunderstood.
Yeah, the building can't be salvaged. We are still in the process of trying to determine whether it's better to repair or replace the pier. We've got an engineering firm engaged to do that engineering design and then life cycle cost analysis, so we can decide on the pier
But
itself.
the building itself has basically been condemned and recommended to be torn down, so that's what we're doing.
Thank you. And I could go on, but that's enough for now.
Yeah.
I know it's 11 o'clock, so I don't want to, I've already taken up your break, so. I'll just close by saying we're excited, and we will give you 125%, not the mere 110 that all the other consulting firms are promising. and we do hope to work with you.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It's been very informative, very helpful. We appreciate your time. Have a good
All
day.
right, you have a great day and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So.
Now we can do comments.
We can do public comments. If anybody in the audience has been waiting for your chance to stand, please feel free to approach the podium.
Heather, you got your timer going?
You want to time it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey guys, Lisa Ragland, 115 Salisbury Street. I want to tell you that I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's definitely an undertaking for the two of you to be involved. I would suggest that you include, whether it's other commissioners, other committee members, Parks and Rec, Planning and Zoning, anybody that would want to serve, that you would ask for additional input from the public for that transparency that we're all seeking. And particularly, if you don't add anybody until you make the recommendation to the board for the recruitment firm, I would encourage you to add those folks for the selection committee. Being that we do have an internal candidate, I do think that is going to complicate things. He addressed that. I didn't know if that would come up in any of those interviews. But I do think that to have that transparency and for it to be a very fair process for both internal, external, whether they're from North Carolina or Florida or New Jersey or California, wherever they come in from, you're going to want to have different people from different parts of the country and with different backgrounds to help you make those decisions. That way it doesn't look one-sided, and I think that's very fair. But I do say that, expending more money on hiring an executive recruitment firm at this time might be costly and not budgeted. And I know that we're going to have some expenses due to the termination of the former town manager that were not budgeted. So if we are going to look at spending more money, maybe try internal first. Cape Fear Council of Governments, North Carolina League of Municipalities. You put it on LinkedIn, you put it on Indeed. It's out there. You get candidates. If you don't get anything that looks viable, then you've got a little time to be able to engage one of these firms. And that could potentially save us money if you do decide to go with an internal candidate in the end. So just my 2 cents on that. I do believe that the town residents deserve transparency and accountability in this process and appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Gina Martin, 1032 Ocean Boulevard West. I'm not sure if you needed that or not, but anyway. I too am concerned that we're hiring, are looking to hire a firm. They're very costly. We didn't budget for a firm. And a firm serves two people. They're going to serve you, the council, us, the town, but they also serve that person they bring to us. And one of the people did bring up the fact that a lot of times people go to a job and they didn't want to bring you someone who would come here, stay a few years, and go somewhere else. Well, I want to tell you from having a lot of experience with recruiting firms, if you think they're your candidate, I don't care where you're working. They're going to call you and tell you that they have the perfect job for you, and maybe you'll want to move on down the street or on up the street or wherever for that next $30,000. And I've seen that happen over and over. I've had it happen to myself. I've had it happen to my spouse. Perfectly happy in the job you're in, but yet their job and the way they make money is by moving people. So if they bring us a candidate and you all end up hiring that particular person, they may be here for a while. They may find out they love it here and stay 20 years. I can't tell you one way or the other, but I can tell you that recruitment firms, just like real estate companies and management companies, work off of their databases. That's how they make a living. So I'd like you to keep that in mind. I'm still not sure why we didn't go to the League of Municipalities. If I'm not mistaken, that job for Myrtle Beach is actually listed on their website as well, and several other town manager jobs, as far as also a lot of police officers. If we're going to hire a recruiting firm, maybe we should hire one to find us some police officers, because we really badly need them. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Motion
Okay.
to recess.
Recess until, well, we got at 3 o'clock Mercer, right? So,
I'm
least-
motioning. Are you seconding?
Today at 3 o'clock, right?
Today, yeah.
Hang again.
Okay, we'll be back by 3 o'clock. We're recessed until 3. Thank you.
Good afternoon, this is Jeff Hale.
Hey, Jeff, this is Tom Myers. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the town of Holden Beach. I'm here with Tracy Thomas, who is another commissioner, and Heather Finnell, who's the town clerk, and we've got a couple people, 3 people in the audience from the public. So appreciate this opportunity to talk to you, and we received your proposal. We've gone through it. Kind of like to give you the opportunity to present it and talk through any items you think we need to make sure we note, and any differentiators or any reasons why you believe you're the best firm for us to hire. That'd be great. We've got about a half hour total. We'll have some questions at the end, but the floor is yours to proceed. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir, and thank you to everyone in the room for inviting us in. It's a privilege. If I might, I've got a colleague on standby that I'd like to have join the call. If I can do that briefly, would that be okay?
That'd be fine. Just let us know when you're ready to go.
Yes, sir. And so first, Lisa Ward was intending to be on the call, but is due to some travel been delayed and not able to join. But Joanna Reese will be with us in just a moment. Okay. Hang on just a second, sir, and I'll add her in. Okay, so she is having an emergency with a relative who she's caring for. So you've got me, and that'll be enough today.
Okay.
We're again very pleased and privileged to be able to talk with you today. Mercer Group Associates has a long history and an established name in executive search across the country. We are reformulated as a group of local government experts, and we have specialized training and experience in doing just what you need us to do. Particularly, I want to speak to the fact that we, have had an opportunity to spend a good bit of time in your state, and in Joanna's case, even in the county, in her travels, with her deep experience in state government in North Carolina. I just returned from Winston-Salem, where I presented and spoke as part of a panel at the North Carolina City County Management Association Winter Seminar, and had the opportunity to reconnect with a number of city and town managers in that experience. I'm fresh off of helping the city of Jacksonville place their city attorney. Lisa Ward has done probably a half dozen searches, including Benson and Cramerton and Jackson. And so with that, with our immediate team that would be working with you, and Ellis Hankins, who is an emeritus member of Mercer Group. We have quite a bit of North Carolina connection and knowledge. I've been up and down the road between Holden and Southport as my parents retired there for a while. And so we're anxious to be able to work with you. In terms of our process, you know, what struck me immediately about your RFP was that it mapped out almost precisely how we present or do a standard search. There were a couple little wrinkles that you were looking for that are easy for us to meet, but I felt like it was a very good fit, and I didn't have to do much in terms of our proposal to meet your expectations. We will certainly be turnkey from start to finish. We will take the administrative burden. We will provide you with transparency and objectivity and professionalism, and your employees, your community, and you as an elected body can have confidence in the level of expertise from an HR standpoint and from a city-county management experience standpoint. Alan Reddish will serve sort of as our senior advisor. He has 35 years as a city-county manager in Georgia, and also served as an assistant director for the Carl Vinson Institute of Government at the University of Georgia, which is sort of the parallel to the UNC School of Government. So we have kind of a range of experience and expertise that we can offer you, on top of which the network that we have in contacting people who are not just the active job seekers. You're going to get firms who post and pray. We're going to directly contact a database of over 500 local government management professionals in the Southeast. We're going to probably be able to get in touch with over 6,000 LinkedIn contacts, and we will develop further direct outreach by looking very closely at qualified professionals in North Carolina and surrounding states, where with the housing market being what it is, relocation can be a challenge, and so we work hard to zero in on the regional piece and those sensitivities. North Carolina has got a unique culture and highly professional local governments in my experience, and so these are things that we will bring to the table in our process. We had the opportunity to also work with the North Carolina League of Municipalities of late. Ms. Ward's done a couple of placements there. Ms. Reese and I have just gotten finished with helping them select their Director of Urban Affairs. And so we feel like we have a pretty good footprint and a lot of connections to get your opportunity in front of people and be able to leverage those contacts. In terms of our process, specifically I mentioned that it maps pretty closely to what you're looking for. We will start out by doing some pretty deep dive on your job description, on talking with members of the board of commissioners, the mayor. We will speak with anybody in terms of stakeholders that you identify to find out what are the very specific short-term and over-the-horizon issues, what are the key knowledge, skills, abilities that you need in your city manager, in your community, which is unique. Recognize that y'all grow by 15 times in the off season to the beach season. These present some unique issues, along with the fact that you've got a pier demolition pending, and you've got environmental issues with protecting your beaches, and so those speak to specific backgrounds in the type of city manager or town manager that you're looking for, and we're going to develop a profile that very specifically ferrets out all of those requirements that you're trying to seek, and then we're going to go try to match that and walk things together, because a win for us is when we find a great candidate for you and you're a great fit for that candidate, and you don't have to go through this again anytime soon. And so really that's the crux of our service. From a process standpoint of view, we'll take all that position analysis that we do. We will create an attractive and well-considered position growth profile. We will take that out to market for you for at least 30 days. That will be a national search, but certainly we will focus in on regional and local as well. We're not going to go out to every old website, but rather we know the government platforms to target. We know the state and regional platforms to target. We would get on your school of government listserv. We would further, as I said, do some specific outreach to people in your region as well to get passive and active job search. So once we do that, depending on what you want next, we're going to do some initial screening of the most promising candidates, those that meet those position analysis profile requirements that you've shared with us. We will talk with those folks. We may interview them on camera a little bit. We will do some initial internet, and we will bring you the most promising folks. We can do a couple of different things. We have a capability of providing some one-way recorded interviews for you to get a sense of their thought patterns and communications, along with all the paper sorts of applications, to try to humanize them and bring them to life before they come on site. Alternatively, we can do a short technical interview of about 30 minutes and record those and either provide you with our recommendations or give you access to those recordings and also give you recommendations. So we have some flexibility about getting you really good information as we walk through this process. You'll have a number of data points along with the application and resume and all the stuff that you're used to seeing. Once you decide on who you have further interest in, we hope to have 4 to 6 people to vet. We will do a deeper dive between that point in time and when those folks would be in front of you in person. And that's going to include criminal, motor vehicle, credit, employment verifications, degree verifications. We'll do a social media and internet review to make sure that further they're suitable and qualified for your particular position. We'll present all that in a report in advance of interviews, along with the fact that we will develop interview questions in competency-based, behavioral-based model of interviews, which essentially past behavior being the best predictor of future behavior. We're engaged in risk management. We want to know, not that you just did things, but you're able to do them well and deliver results. And if you did that elsewhere along the lines of the key competencies in other places, then that is probably our best indication they can do it for you as well. We also want to get a sense of why people are seeking your position and what their connection with the town might be, or the state, or the region, because certainly we won't go all through this and have somebody just leave because they're not a good fit culturally or with the community. So having done all that vetting, we'll present a written report which will include all the application materials to date, all of the background reporting that I just mentioned. We will do very deep dive on references, where we find a lot of good information that you'll have in advance of interviews, at least 4 or 5 that we'll speak with, and we may develop references from there. We'll also provide you with a sample of their writing, which may be helpful in that we'll ask them 9 or 10 questions to respond to. And so by the time that you get to the actual interview and it's game time, you will have a lot of information and a sense of the trade-offs among those that you invite in. and we will be there in person to support the interview process. I have an HR background as a former HR director of a consolidated city government. I have done hundreds and hundreds of interviews, including hundreds and hundreds of administrative investigation interviews, and I'm very good at helping boards and commissions and hiring managers ferret out good information in an interview. And we'll be there to support all of that, as well as your selection and negotiation process. We can assist you with comparable salaries, talk you through any issues that come up in getting that person sort of in the boat. So end to end, we will work closely with you to make sure that we are customizing our process to meet your specific needs for your community. We want to know what your problems or issues or desires or goals and objectives are. We want to bring somebody who is up for that and is a good fit for that. What questions for y'all?
Sorry. When you went through the whole thing and you said that you were going to provide recommendations and then we were going to have 4 to 6 people to vet and interview, how many would you recommend to us out of that larger pool that you initially get, that you interview?
So let me make this clear. So we would expect in the current market to get between 10 and 20 applications, good ones. Like I said, we're not interested in generating a huge pool of unqualified folks. This is a very specific set of skills. And so from there, we might have 4 to 6 that we think are promising. We would bring those folks to you with everything that we know at that point. At that point, you would make an interim decision there about, okay, now who do you want us to vet further and invite in for an in-person interview? And you might interview 4 or 5 of those people is typically what we would hope. You might interview just 2 or 3. We would recommend, if you have interest, that you interview at least 3 or 4, because we're finding that there are a lot of opportunities out there. People have personal and family issues, and sometimes you lose a candidate between the time you invite them and when you actually interview. And so we move quickly to try to avoid that, but it does happen.
Okay, good.
In terms of your team, based on the proposal, it sounds like it's Alan, Lisa, and Johanna. Will you be involved, or who's our primary point of contact? And
yes, sir. Great question. So I would be serving as your day-to-day project manager. I would be coordinating with the rest of the team and be your primary liaison. And so I would be your primary contact. Joanna and I would be doing a lot of the work. Lisa Ward would be sort of making sure that we have a senior associate to guide it, particularly since she's got such a high touch in North Carolina. Alan is there to help guide the entire thing and make sure that the whole process meets Mercer Group's standards for excellence, and provide his considerable wisdom. And he often will be on calls if we get to speak with the entire board. He can sometimes provide some insight and wisdom. But we are all going to be available and active on the project.
okay, in terms of in-person, you said you'd be here for the interviews. Would that be you, or how much in-person time are you planning here versus remote?
So typically, we would be working remotely up to the point where we actually come on site for an interview. We can certainly come for the what I call the semifinalist meeting, where we present to you the pool and who we would recommend. We can be there for that in person as well. So 1 or 2 times is typically what we do. In terms of your time, we try to make sure that we involve you when it's a key decision point. So you would be asked maybe to be on a call individually with us at the outset, so we can hear from you and each of the board members what your thoughts and insights and desires are. And then at the meeting where we present the pool, we typically do that virtually, but we do it in person if that's the preference. That's not an issue. And then the on-site interviews would be the only other time that we would need your time. And so the 30-minute call, a hour to an hour and a half, semifinalist meeting where you decide who you want us to vet further and bring in for an interview. And then interviews are typically, the better part of a day.
You mentioned, one of the very first steps is to develop the profile for the person we're looking for. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, how you would go about that, what our role would be, your role, how that takes place?
So we would gather, the job description as approved, which, may have some slight differences or things in it. We would be researching your community, your projects. We would be speaking with each of you individually, and we would gather up a lot of other sorts of materials in terms of, your Chamber of Commerce kinds of material, information about the structure of the government, information about the budget, all of these things that we would feel like, one, are positive and would attract highly qualified candidates, and two, would give those candidates sort of a realistic preview of the community and the job itself specifically.
Okay.
Did you want to ask them about the money thing?
I think it's in the contract, you had listed 24,000 fixed fee and then 6,500, I think was passed through or reimbursable expenses, things like that. So we, in order to engage, we've got to basically appropriate all the money. So we're not asking for anything that's, a binding number, but if you could give us a ballpark or budgetary, what do we need to encumber to all in cover this?
Sure, good question. So the 24 in terms of fee, and then from an expense pass-through standpoint, really most of that is going to be in advertising that we do on your behalf, which will be maybe about $2,000, maybe $2,200, and then the rest is going to be any travel that we do on your behalf. And there's a few $100s that will go towards background and maybe shipping and copying kinds of expenses. So all in, I would say, 28.5, maybe.
Okay. So that's less, the 6,500, I'm trying to find it in the contract here, but it was listed, was that?
And so if we've got one person fairly close, if I were to travel, it might be maybe $1,200 or $1,500 that one time, but we do have somebody in state who could travel to you as well. So I don't think it's probably, 4,000 or so for advertising and travel. And then, like I said, maybe another $600, depending on how many candidates you have, maybe it's 8.
Okay.
That's ballpark. We generally, I would say, I've never seen us reach the up to limit on expenses. We really we're all former local government, and so it's sort of in our DNA to try to make sure that we do that on your behalf and keep those expenses as low as we can.
Can you talk a little bit about your strategies for building a diverse candidate pool to avoid the good old boy club?
thank you for asking that. That's a great question, and absolutely. So, a couple of things. You know, we're certainly going to use and have used government search platforms that are specifically targeted for underrepresented folks, females, minorities, and we've had some success in generating some diversity. We also, through, as I mentioned earlier before, we have a contact list of over 500 professionals in the Southeast. And so that will, in and of itself, be another factor that is going to offer some diversity, because it's not just good old boys. But, you know, it's a profession that is ever growing in terms of diversity, and we're seeing that of late. I was astonished at the level of diversity of the MPA students and city county managers that I saw at a conference in Winston-Salem last week. So I think through our network is part of the answer. Part of the answer is in platforms where we are going to advertise for you. And the other piece of that is in our sort of day-to-day grind of going out there and sourcing new candidates that may not be part of our current network. We will certainly be looking for and valuing all sorts of diversity, and that's, you know, that's age, that's background, that's where you grew up, that's whether you're from different socioeconomic levels. Diversity to us is going to mean all kinds of things, and even to the extent of what kinds of communities have you served, and talk to us about your abilities or your experiences in serving a diverse set of constituencies and populations. And so we can certainly provide you with those efforts. And like I said, we've had some success at that. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, good. That was good. Thank you.
Your proposal lays out a 90-day timeline. Can you kind of touch on the key milestones, or you know, how's that unfold? What would we expect? That's basically 3 months, right? Month by month?
Yeah, I think generally, you know, there's a balance between you want to go as fast as you can, but you want to do that as prudently as you can. There are certain things that just do take time, and that should take time. And so from the outset, if you were to say go, we would begin scheduling calls, we would begin gathering materials. We can be sort of up and actively recruiting within, you know, probably 10, 15 days max. And then a 30-day period of sort of, we'll go away and do our work. We'll come back to you and have that key meeting, which is hour and a half, 2 hours of here's what we did on your behalf. Here are the results. Here are the most promising folks and everything that we know about them. Who would you like to potentially have in to interview? You identify those folks. We go away again for a while, 2 or 3 weeks, and do all of the background and investigation and deep dive and putting together a deliverable for you that we get to you in advance of an interview towards the end of that 90-day period. The 90-day period does not include, you know, any kind of notice that someone would need to give, nor any time they would need to relocate. So if you were to select somebody from away or who needed time to relocate and give a notice, you might add another, I don't know, 40 to 60 days to that ultimate timeline for that person to actually be on the ground.
Okay, so it's basically from us giving you a notice to proceed until we've got a selection in place?
That's a 90-day.
That's the 90-day? Okay.
And if we can beat it, and we can do that prudently, we will do that. There are sometimes ways that we can save time and beat that process, but My experience is that's a good balance of going quickly, and schedules are a big part of that. What we'll do, sir, is up front, we will set up a work project calendar with the commission and make sure that those key dates that I mentioned, we would want to calendar those from the very front. And if you don't do that, you run into conflicts and delay at the back end. And so we want to be able to speak to candidates confidently about the timeline, because they're looking for a job now, you're looking for a manager now, and we're going to hit those targets.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Well, I think I heard you say that you would be helping to help us with the salary and compensation guidance when we get to that point?
So, in terms of a full kind of salary survey, we wouldn't necessarily do that, but we do have a lot of market experience, and we have access to a lot of data, and so we can certainly look at your past incumbent. We can look at some comparable agencies and try to give you a good competitive range up front to compete on if that's needed. And then at the back end, if there's need with helping and supporting negotiations, a lot of times Alan is particularly helpful at that stage too.
Okay, I think we're good. Do you have questions for us?
I do have one very brief question, and I won't take your time. One of the items in the RFP was that, I think it was item 13 under the scope of work, indicated that you're looking for some help in facilitating introduction and onboarding of the selected candidate. I wondered what the expectation there, the desire there was, because that isn't something we would normally get involved in, but I'd be interested to understand a little bit more about that.
Selection, I should know it, I'm sorry, but it said selection and onboard. So onboarding is any logistics for housing or travel, or, if this would be in a case where somebody is relocating from somewhere and might have multiple things involved with uprooting and moving.
So what I might offer is that, one of the things we like to suggest up front when you advertise the position is that you offer some relocation expense reimbursement that, you don't have to have a solid number, but you can put that it's negotiable, because who knows if you need it and how far away somebody might be coming from. But, there's a pass-through reimbursement there that might come into play for somebody relocating up to a certain amount. In terms of helping them, find, housing. I'm not sure that's something we've typically done. I'm not saying that it's not something we couldn't do, but you're really looking at somebody who has an intimate knowledge of the real estate market there, which I don't. But when you talk about, guidance and sort of walking you through that process, and how do we have this person come in day one? What are some things we should be doing to facilitate a good start? Those are all things we can certainly talk with you about and support you in. I think we can meet that expectation, but I just wasn't sure what all that entailed.
Okay. Well, housing's a good one, because on the island here, it's expensive, and I don't know if it's typical to give housing allowances or buy downs or something. It'd be great if they lived in the town limits.
Do you have a requirement, I assume?
No requirement at all, just a preference.
Okay. Well, I think that's wise for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is cost. But okay. Well, that's good information for us to have and for us to talk about as we approach this, because that's typically will kind of get you to offer them a start date and help with, if you need a contract template or something, offer letters, that kinds of thing. We're versed in being able to do that. In terms of how you support someone integrating into the community in terms of finding an affordable housing option. We could probably support that to an extent.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And been very helpful, been very informative, so thank you very much.
Well, great. I wish you the very best regardless of your selection. We're really excited about the opportunity. We'd love to come see y'all and help you find someone who's highly qualified and really a good fit for you. And we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Great.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have
Bye.
a good day.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, so that completes the list. I need time to think about these and go through them.
Yeah, so I think we need to do some kind of rubrics on our own and then come back together. So I think we talked about whether we could recess until Thursday morning.
Yes, and let me check the border that I did not do.
I mean, the goal is to move quick, ideally make a recommendation
In the meeting next
a
Tuesday.
week from today. So I think we got the information, it's just,
Sorry.
simulating it.
You checking the room?
Yeah, sorry. Wants to do two-step verification and this and that and the other. Let me log in on my phone now. I'm already logged in.
Take your time.
Thursday is wide open.
Okay, so how about we recess till Thursday at 9 a.m.?
Sounds good to me.
And we'll come back with our,
We'll hash through, we'll come back with our opinions and see if we agree or disagree.
on
So,
which ones to move forward with to the board.
Yep. Okay, we are recessed until Thursday, 9 a.m. Thank you.